What were you thinking as a poll question?
I'm not yet.
All right, we got like 1 minute.
All right.
Yo, dog, the invisible bone. Good morning.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton, on a Friday that is absolutely jam-packed with a special co-host, Dr. Roto, coming in 1 hour from now. Felipe on the other side of the glass, taking full credit for the fact that we gained 4 Twitch followers yesterday. I think it's a record for Miller and Moulton for all the days outside of when we do our special NFL draft shows.
Trying to make an impact out here.
Appealing to the younger demo. I believe he got 4 of his friends who are hanging out back in the dorms. Hey, man, I'm going to be co-hosting the show. You know, little stretch there, co-hosting. Go, hey, I'm going to be co-hosting the show. Why don't you check me and the old guy out? All right. You know, don't make fun of them, though. They gave me my first career break. You know, I'll try to remember their names 20 years from now. How you doing this morning? You're excited about baseball, which is a great sign for Major League Baseball that someone under the age of 104 is excited about the news.
I miss baseball so much. I should have been at a spring training game yesterday and the day before and the day before.
Well, especially since this is break for you. So I know you would have been at spring training games, but apparently we're going to have them, which is outstanding up and down the west and east coast of Florida and in Arizona as well. It's going to take another week to 10 days, apparently, for the games. I would expect week from today, they'll try to start jamming them in. Friday the 18th, get in about 2.5 weeks worth of games, something like that. But yes, Virginia, there is a deal to be made after all. I mean, a lot of changes, quite frankly, coming to the sport. Don't know if the playoff structure is the biggest change. I don't know if the fact that there's now a pitcher will never hit again unless you count Ohtani. A pitcher will never hit again in Major League Baseball. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I'm just saying. It took 50 years, but the National League caught up with the American League. We finally don't have it where the three-pointer is in effect in the Western Conference, but not in effect in the Eastern Conference. So lots of changes to Major League Baseball, but they struck a deal, and they're going to start a week late, but they're not going to miss any games. So between off days, throw in a few doubleheaders, bada bing, bada boom. Also, the one-game wild card is over, and there will no longer be the one-game playoff. They're going to go to NFL-style tiebreaker. So if 2 teams end up tied for a division title or tied for the final playoff spot, they will have a series of tie-breaking measures. I'm guessing they'll go head-to-head, and then, you know, whatever the third and the fourth and the fifth tiebreaker is. And, of course, everyone's favorite 7th tiebreaker, coin toss. But so there will be no more one-game Monday playoffs to decide division titles, playoff spots, etc. So a lot of changes coming to Major League Baseball, and the rule changes, the pitch clock, the shift, that whole thing, that's likely to be next year.
Did I read that they're eliminating the shift entirely?
Well, that's part of the proposed rule changes. And I don't know if they're eliminating the shift entirely or they're putting ground rules on what the shift could be. I don't think they should limit it entirely.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see a purpose in that. Because if anything, shifts make the game shorter.
You could argue it does, however, take base runners and offense. I mean, the shift works more times than not. And the reason that the shift is more effective now is they throw harder now. I mean, now they pitch to the shift. They pound you inside with fastballs, and then they put a whole bunch of defenders on the pull side of the field. It's really difficult to hit the ball the other way when it's 96 on your hands. So they pitch to the shift, and then they defend you. But I don't know if they're doing away with it or they're just making the shift be you have to be on the infield. Because the shift actually goes back to Ted Williams. I mean, the shift's been around. It is not just a modern analytic thing. I mean, they've been doing the shift since the 40s. So I don't necessarily want to do away with the shift, but I hate the whole roving 40, 50 feet out in the outfield. It looks like a softball. I don't like ground balls that are quote unquote through the hole and guys are getting thrown out from the outfield. But it's one of the proposed rule changes. None of that is supposed to go into effect this year, but it could, because one of the rule changes that went into effect is that Major League Baseball can, on 45 days' notice, change the playing field. It used to be you had to do it during the offseason and it had to be voted on and all that. One of the things that Major League Baseball got is that, hey, if we see something in the first part of the year and we don't like it, we could implement a rule change and it goes into effect in 45 days. Oh, okay. So we'll see if Commissioner Manfred uses that. But a fascinating NFL trade that went down late yesterday. Don't know if you saw it. Khalil Mack in a salary dump traded from the Bears to the LA Chargers. Think about that defense. Mack and Bosa rushing the passer off of the edges. You think maybe the Chargers taking a look around and seeing what's worked, by the team that plays in the same stadium that they do? Hey, LA Chargers, no excuses now. You've got a franchise quarterback. You've got a number 1 and 2 wide receiver. You've got 2 pass rushers and a cover corner. Hello. And you still have money to spend.
Something about the smog in LA these days.
Well, the part about it that's not being talked about is, will the division now end this Chiefs run? I mean, the Chiefs have hosted 4 consecutive AFC championship games. Now look at what it's going to take to host a 5th consecutive AFC championship. Now, they've been fortunate over the years. They have not always been the 1 seed. Last year, they were not the 1 seed. Tennessee was. They got beat in the divisional round. You go back to 2018, the first time they hosted the AFC championship game. They were not the 1 seed. Baltimore, I believe, was. Tennessee beat them. So next thing you know, the Chiefs got to host the Titans in the AFC title game. Or no, they got to host the Patriots that year. But then another year, they weren't the 1. Baltimore lost. They got to host. So they've been fortunate in 2 of the 4. Ironically, the 2 times they weren't the 1 but hosts, they lost, which is interesting. But so will the division now gang up on the Chiefs, and will anybody be able to win the division from them and make the Chiefs have to go the road route? Patrick Mahomes has never played in a road playoff game, never mind won one. It's amazing. 4 consecutive years in the playoffs, you never played a road game. So
I'll tell you, based on yesterday's poll results, everyone seems to think yes.
Yeah. AFC West clearly, and that was before the Khalil Mack trade. So right now the AFC West loading up. Wednesday afternoon is the cutoff for everybody to get to the cap of 2.5 $208.2 million. Lots of moves made yesterday, a lot of salary dumping yesterday. There will only be more today and through the weekend. Going to be brutal out there for NFL veterans. Absolutely brutal. And we've said it for years, and others have as well. It's the guaranteed money that you need to pay attention to. Once the guaranteed money starts to go down and teams only have to eat a little bit while losing a lot of bit off their cap, they start making moves like they are making. But we've got a deal in baseball. We're going to have spring training for those of us along the West Coast in Florida. We'll get at least a couple weeks of it, maybe 2.5 weeks. Season to start a week late. Thursday, April 7th is when it's going to start. And they're going to play a full 162, which is funny because I thought the commissioner stepped to the podium twice and canceled 4 series. Not that this was all a game or anything. No, not that they were all just negotiating publicly, as if somehow, some way they were influencing hearts and minds. When 98% of us were standing here going, could you guys just shut up and make a deal? All right. I mean, you're arguing basically over money. The one thing that got tabled was this international draft talk, which the owners, it's been a little misreported. The owners actually included the international draft in every one of their proposals to the players. They just never made it seem as if it was really important, a deal breaker until the very end. But David Ortiz, of all players or former players, came out last night and said, listen, the international draft will work and it might be a good thing, but we can't do it immediately. The Dominican and other places are not set up like the United States. This is going to need a little bit of time to implement. I think that's a pretty big voice in this. It's also the first time a player who potentially would have been in an international draft has come out and said an international draft might not be a bad thing. So my guess is in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see an international draft. It's a 5-year deal. I don't believe there are any outs. I don't believe after 2 years, one side or the other can raise their hand and opt out of the deal. It's a 5-year deal. So mark your calendars. We'll be going through this again in December of 26 and January and February of 27. The madness continued. Ho! The bubble, which had gotten real small, got real big last night. And certain teams, Gators, bubbles burst yesterday. And certain teams, if there was a scenario for them to miss the tournament, Miami, made sure that they're absolutely positively in. Miller and Moulton. With young Felipe on the other side of the glass, check him out. By the way, the hair on the curly scale today of 1 to 10, probably a good solid 8.5. I mean, you got it sticking up in and around the headset. I mean, check them out. It's the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. Check them out. I mean, a little bit of glare because the camera's on the other side of the glass, but you get the idea. And Felipe donning his shirt from the Rams-Bucks divisional game, Tom Brady's last game, or so we believe, in the NFL.
Please make it be your last, Tom. I need to say I was there.
Because you didn't get a ticket stub, right? It was all done electronically?
Right, and that kind of bothers me.
Was any way to save that?
It disappeared after the game. I was like, no.
I know.
No.
I know. It is the one thing that your generation, I think, is really going to lose out on.
I have old ticket stubs.
There you go.
From old finals games that I've been to.
Yep. I have a ticket stub for my 16th birthday. It was the day that the Giants beat the Cowboys and the next day got in the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. I have that somewhere, but I know I have it. Also have a ticket stub from old Yankee Stadium before it was remodeled. The second to last game the Giants ever played at old original Yankee Stadium, which of course now is completely torn down.
I went there once.
So, well, you didn't go to old Yankee Stadium.
No,
No, I'm talking about before the remodel. They remodeled Yankee Stadium in 74 and 75. Like the highlights that you see of Reggie hitting the ball, the 3 home runs and what have you, that's remodeled Yankee Stadium. The old Yankee Stadium had pillars. There were seats in which literally you couldn't see. In fact, the seat that I had was up against a pillar, but it was fine because I was up against it. If you're a row behind me, it blocked your view.
Right.
But I was okay. I just had my shoulder up against it.
Gotcha.
Giants, Eagles. Norm Snead was one of the quarterbacks. I'm trying to remember if he was the Giants or the Eagles quarterback because he played for both. But Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Dr. Roto in the house at the top of the hour. Great guest list. David Sampson will join us next hour for his thoughts on the deal and where baseball goes from here. Pat Kirwan will join us in our 8 o'clock hour. Good show lined up for you. Friday edition, Miller and Moulton. Hope your week's gone well. Thanks for ending it with us here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
This might just be my new favorite Miller and Moulton breakfast right here.
What do we got?
Some clementines.
That?
I love oranges. Big fan. I just bring 3 and then boom, I'm good.
I got grief yesterday from somebody in which I only gave in Today Was the Day When, and I talked about the Incredible Hulk debuting in 78. And he said, you only gave love to Bill Bixby, no love for Lou Ferrigno. Good point. My bad. I screwed up. That's on me. Arch, I don't know if you saw my response. I believe some places for like $10 are actually selling you ticket stubs for events. Thought I read that like a week or two ago.
It's an interesting observation. Why do all the kids that are getting into radio nowadays talk into the microphone from the side?
You know why?
Why?
Because if you talk directly into the microphone, your words sometimes have a tendency to pop.
Boom.
Okay, like your P's and other letters, if you talk directly into it. But in this instance, though, Goofy, if you look at it, I think part of it is also if we put the microphone directly in front of us, the microphone is blocking the camera. So it's another reason why, I'm even off center a little bit, is to try, even though I got a big head and a fat face, I'm trying not to block all of it.
Fam, I think that they might uplift that mandate.
Fam, come on now. I've been saying this since the start of the year. Brooklyn's going to the finals.
No, but they uplift that mandate. It really is over.
Yes.
It's over.
Well, I mean, listen, if they had Harden and the 3 had meshed, it was absolutely over. But it might be better this way.
I mean, yeah, because they were better defensively now.
Well, they're better defensively, and
they're
then
deeper.
also you can have guys, I'm the third option, I'm the fourth option, instead of having to worry every time down who's going to have the ball.
What, Seth Curry had like
16, 24 or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. And Drummond's been playing, he's been there.
Well, I think by April, Kyrie's going to be playing. I mean,
Yeah, Kyrie had 22.
I mean, the White House, even while they extended the airplane mask mandate another month, most people think that'll be it. By early to mid-April, we'll be maskless on planes also. No, the Russians sold the nets. Prokhorov there sold the nets 3 years ago, maybe even a little more. Who's it? Joe Tsao, I think. Tao, he bought the nets and the Barclays Center.
By the way, Goran Dragic. That's going to be a big pickup down the stretch. He had 7 assists yesterday.
Yeah, well, he chose them too. He had like 8 options and he chose them.
You know why I think he chose them?
Yeah. Well,
the ring, yeah, obviously, but his head coach was his former was the point guard that he backed up.
Right, Nash,
yeah. They have history. A pretty good history too. I mean, they didn't win anything, but they were good. Oh, Twitch chat. Remember when I went to an FGCU game with an astronaut helmet on?
Look at this. I get a text second half of the game I'm broadcasting. Hey, Moulton, I can see you. I'm the guy sitting in the stands to your right with an astronaut hat on. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. He leaves the house like that, ladies and gentlemen.
This is my Birds uniform.
Well, Jeff, it's only, first off, you woke up in Iowa.
Oh, we're coming back.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Excuse me. Oh, little frog in the throat there.
Uh-oh.
They didn't have any water to get rid of it. Have to take care of that during the break. Mark is off once again. He'll be back on Monday. I have no idea, to the many of you who asked how he played yesterday, what did he shoot, did his team win, they're in the winners of the loser, bracket. I have no idea. No idea the ground rules. I have no idea how it went. Zip, zilch, nada. This might as well be a weekend where Mark and I very rarely communicate with one another. Occasionally, while I'm at a football game in the fall, he will send me a text about something that, hey, I know you're busy, but, crazy ending in Columbus or something like that. Oh, okay. Thanks. I'll check that out afterwards. But I have no idea how he did. He'll be back Monday. I'm sure we'll hear all about it. Or if he's winning in some way, shape, or form, you'll probably be able to read about it at that Mark Miller on Twitter. We do, however, Felipe, need a poll question. We need to do a better job than yesterday. Our poll question turned out to be lame yesterday based on the overwhelming response for one particular answer. So,
yes.
Second thing to keep in mind, sorry to interrupt, is think of a poll question that will last through the weekend.
Yes.
3 days worth of life here, 72 hours. So whether it's baseball, whether it's March Madness, don't know if we could do another football question, something about quarterbacks maybe, something along those lines.
Yeah, yesterday was your typical think of an idea and then a couple minutes later
realize it was a bad idea.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, once again, encouraging you to take in the show just even one time. We would love for you to, watch the show that way and follow us, subscribe and all that. But if you could take 10 seconds and go on twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Felipe is right now broadcasting with his astronaut hat on.
Yes.
He wore this to a college basketball game a month ago. I was happening to broadcast it. He sends me a text in the middle, says, hey, I'm in the stands to your right. I'm the one with the astronaut hat on, which I will say does narrow it down. Right.
I mean, it's easy to notice.
Another thing that I noticed is that you only had one friend sitting next to you, and you came there with more. So that person, by the way, is the one that will take a bullet for you.
Well, I had one friend sitting next to me and then 4 behind me.
Well, yeah, but they made sure
yeah.
to separate like a row, and they're like, I mean, this Yahoo over here, he's wearing an astronaut hat. But the guy who sat next to you, that's of all your friends, that's the one you call when you get arrested.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's important to know these things.
Yeah.
Who will take a bullet for you? Who do you call when you only get one phone call and you don't want it to be your parents?
Shout out Nick Skripkin.
Yes, it's important to know who that person is. So we need to come up with a poll question. You know what struck me after weeks of talking about baseball and having so many people go, for goodness sakes, I hate baseball. I'm done with baseball. Stop talking about baseball. Is that all of a sudden yesterday afternoon, all the people who are like, baseball's back. I'm so happy. It's like, wait, hold on a second. Where the hell have you guys been? Here we are talking about something that we feel is a legitimate sports topic, and you're all just, banging us on the top of the head like, stop talking about this crap. Nobody cares. And I come out of the woodwork yesterday. Didn't realize this was important to you. I got to admit, I didn't care about the whole 162, 158, 56, 54, what have you. I felt it was important for the sport, though, and you heard me mention it many times in the last 10 days. I did think it was important for the sport to be playing baseball by the middle of April. We're occupied the first 10 or so days of April, to be honest. While it's not the best of look, I mean, we got this March Madness thing. We kind of get wrapped up in that. The Masters is April 7th through the 10th. I mean, I really thought baseball, if they had started the 11th, the 12th, we would have been fine as a country. Honestly. Because besides opening day, after opening day, the next 10 or so days of baseball get lost in the shuffle. But, it turns out opening day is going to be on Thursday the 7th, which also happens to be the first round of the Masters. Not ideal. Got to be honest. Not ideal, but okay. They felt they needed 4 weeks. I mean, guys are going to start showing up in Florida and Arizona today. I mean, the deal was only finalized at dinner time last night. The other thing that's going to happen, though, free agency began at 7 o'clock last night. 7 o'clock. Well, so expect Chris Bryant, Correa, you name it, Freddie Freeman. I mean, this is probably all going to happen here between now and the weekend.
When's the NFL draft?
The NFL draft is usually the last Thursday in April.
Okay.
And then second and third round Friday, rounds 4 through 7 on that last Saturday.
Pretty jam-packed April.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, it doesn't baseball, basketball, hockey, it's tough for them because of how big the NFL has become to really grab center stage much before May. But at least baseball's playing. And, I didn't care if it was a full 162. I think most of us think the season's a touch too long. I mean, for some reason, it used to be forever, 154 games, and they changed that 60 years ago. I think most of us would be okay with something around 140, 144. We all know why it's not going to happen. It's money. But I think baseball would be okay if it shortened its season a touch. I mean, it is still the longest regular season. And even with them now allowing 12 teams in the playoffs, 6 in each league, which we all think in 5 years is going to go up to 14. I mean, that's clearly the next big ask for the owners, and the players have to have something to give the owners to get what it is they're going to want 5 years from now. One underlying story from this, even if you don't care about everything that just went down with baseball, and if you're not a huge fan of the sport, I mean, we're all into drama. We're all into politics, who hates who and who voted for what and why. So baseball had 38 people that had to vote to ratify this deal. Now, for what it's worth, the owners were unanimous, which I find interesting. I mean, we heard Artie Moreno votes against everything that Rob Manfred proposes. So the fact it wasn't 29-1 right there, I took as a good sign. But also the Dodgers and the Mets, because they added this new tax layer in which it's almost a dollar for dollar tax once you get to a certain point of spending. It's like 80 cents on the dollar. I think once you go about 50, 60 million over what the CBT is, they charge you 80 cents for every dollar you spend. So, if you go 20 million over that last, layer, if you will, or barrier, it'll cost you an extra 16 million on top of it. So when you're signing that player to a $20 million deal, you need to realize, if you're the Dodgers or the Mets, or maybe one day again the Yankees, you need to realize actually you're paying that player 36 million. He's only getting 20 of it, and the Rays and the Marlins are getting the rest. But the owners were unanimous. The players had one vote per team. Every player rep had a vote. And then there's an 8-member player executive council. The executive council voted unanimously against the deal. Against the deal. I believe 5 of the 8 players on the executive council are represented by Scott Boras. And David Sampson will join us in an hour, and you've heard him say, and if you follow him on Twitter, he has been adamant about this for months, that Scott Boras was running the Players Association, or trying very hard to. Well, the player committee there, executive council, unanimously rejected the deal. That meant that the player reps had to pass it, and they did by a vote of 26-4. So the final player vote ended up being 26-12. So that I find interesting, that clearly, the talk throughout was there was a divide amongst the owners, and there clearly is. Big market, small market, there's no doubt there's a divide. But at the very end of the day, they, got together and said, okay, I'll do this. I mean, the Dodgers and Mets owners both said, well, I'm not crazy about the added taxes, but if it's for the good of the sport, okay, we'll do it. And even the small market, the A's and the Rays and the Marlins and what have you, they voted for this. But amongst the players and the player reps and the agents, not exactly. No, not crazy about this. Oh, really? That's interesting. Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 is next. Thanks so much for listening on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So, do you think Christian Yelich is juicing?
I beg your pardon?
I think Christian Yelich is juicing.
Why? Because he had an orange juice in his hand? Just
I don't know.
A little humor there.
Yeah. I just think he's juicing.
Huh. Well, there was no drug testing during the whole lockout. I will say he risks a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
When you could just be good.
Well, KM, I think the first thing baseball is going to try to do a year from now is a pitch clock. What I think they should do between now and then is they should sit down with the umpires and say, hey, we're really going to start enforcing this whole batter's box thing. And we're going to let pitchers dictate pace of play. Now, I don't think they'll do it, but.
So, no more one-game wild card.
No.
What now?
So if two teams end up tied, they'll have a tiebreaker system in place.
Oh.
And so they'll just figure out, kind of like, in the NFC this year, you had the Eagles, Niners, and Saints. Well, no, you had the Niners won the last game. If the Niners had lost to the Rams in the regular season, you would have had a three-way tie for 2 playoff spots. The Niners would have been the odd team out because the NFL had a playoff system in place. Just like in the AFC this year. I mean, you had a.
So essentially, we're going back to the old ways of baseball.
Well, no, baseball's always no. This is baseball adopting NFL tiebreak rules, okay, or NHL tiebreak rules, or NBA tiebreak rules. Baseball's always had, when there's been a tie, they've had a playoff.
Right, but baseball didn't used to have a wild card game. There was just a wild card team.
I don't.
In 2003, the Marlins made the playoffs as a wild card team.
Right, but if the Marlins had finished tied for the wild card with, say, the Mets, they would have had a one-game playoff to determine who was the wild card team. Okay, the one-game playoff's gone.
Yes.
They would just take a look at their records and figure out head-to-head or division record or whatever, and somebody would be declared the wild card team by tiebreaker. Fam, yeah, I think relievers should get 3 pitches because the mounds are supposed to be identical. That's a rule change from 20, 30 years ago. So there's not, supposed to be an adjustment needed. I think they should get 3 pitches instead of the 9 that they get. I would give them 3. I do think it's interesting. Someone in the Twitch chat room named Goofy is commenting about your headgear.
I will say it's very comfy in here, but I can't be too comfy because.
Exactly. It's nice that the air hasn't kicked in yet. Got a lot going on.
The mental battle that I play to just maintain my focus. It's really just shaped me into a different man.
Yeah, Goofy, no one gets into radio to meet, quote, chicks anymore.
Anymore, because back then it was the coolest thing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
You're on the radio?
The late night DJ? Oh, yeah. Used to let the girls in the back door and hang out in the booth with them.
Boom.
Absolutely. Did it in college.
That's awesome. All right, we got the starting 5 now.
Yeah.
Let's get that ready. All right, we're coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Mark off once again. He'll be back on Monday, I promise. Special guest co-host, Dr. Roto, joining us at the top of the hour. Get his thoughts on everything that has gone on in the world of sports, and it's a lot. I was texting him last night, Felipe, saying, hey, we got this guest, we got this guest, we got this guest, and I may add a college basketball guest. He texts back, he goes, Yeah, I'd leave it open. We got a few things to talk about. Said, you got a darn good point there. Without further ado, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
baseball is going to happen after all. Opening day pushed back 1 week. Thursday, April 7th will be opening day in baseball. I believe the very first game of the season is Yankees-Red Sox. Some things never change. 162 games are going to get played after all. For those wondering about spring training up and down the west coast of Florida, players are going to be reporting between today and Sunday. In fact, by Sunday, everybody's got to be in camp in both Florida and Arizona. Then a week's worth of training. The earliest games are going to take place St. Patrick's Day, but most likely first spring training games are going to be Friday the 18th, maybe Saturday the 19th. Figure on 2 weeks, maybe 2 and at most half weeks worth of spring training games. So your favorite team, you got to figure on at most you'll get about 9 games, probably somewhere around 7 or 8 instead. Free agency began last night. So far, no big signings. We'll pay attention and let you know if anything happens. The vote was unanimous amongst the owners, 30-0. It was 26-12 amongst the players. It was 0-8 amongst the executive committee. A unanimous vote against the deal by the people who were doing the negotiating. It was a 26-4 yay vote amongst the 30-player reps. Now 12 playoff teams. Gone are tiebreaker games. The 1-game Monday playoff to determine a division champ or a wild card, they're gone. We will go to NFL, NHL, NBA tiebreaker rules. Also, the wild card round is a best of 3. It's no longer a 1-game playoff. There will be no reseeding. You will have the first and second seeds get byes. 3 will play 6, 4 will play 5. If the 6 seed beats the 3 seed, unlike the NFL where they reseed and the worst team plays the best team, baseball's going to say, oh, well, upset, 6 seed plays the 2 seed. And the winner of the 4-5 will always play the 1. There will be a draft lottery now in baseball. Players were worried that teams were tanking to get number 1 picks. So the top 6, or really bottom 6 teams in the league will go into a draft-style lottery. So if you're tanking for this great prospect, you only have a 1 in 6 chance of having your ping pong ball, or however it is they're going to do it, come up to get that great prospect. The minimum salary will now be $700,000. It will go up $20,000 a year for the 4 seasons that follow, so that by the end of this deal, the minimum salary will be $780,000. There will be a universal DH. The competitive balance tax begins at $230 million. That's 20 plus million higher than where it was this past year. It will go up about $3 million a year for the following 4 years and end at $244 million. There are 4 tax layers above that. So if your team goes over the tax, they will pay accordingly. Those are the highlights. A lot more specifics will come out in the next day or so. A lot of NFL news from yesterday. Khalil Mack, a trade is being finalized between the Bears and the Chargers, in which the Bears will get a 2nd and 6th round pick. This is a big salary dump by the Bears. Mack had multiple years left on a deal in which his cap hit was well over $20 million. Chargers, meanwhile, now will have Mack on one side, Bosa on the other, and Derwin James in the secondary to go with Herbert and 2 elite wide receivers on offense. I wonder what their excuse is going to be now.
Watch out, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, okay. Have the Chargers win a big game and then call me. Jason Kelce is coming back. The 34-year-old Eagles center, future Hall of Famer, who was first-team All-Pro last year. His coach enticed him with a keg of beer if he came back. Kelsey announced his comeback on Twitter with a shot of a keg of beer. The Raiders cut linebacker Corey Littleton. It'll go into effect June 1st. They'll save nearly $12 million. They also restructured the contracts of tackle Colton Miller and running back Kenyon Drake to save another $14.5 million. So the Raiders just created $26+ million in cap room yesterday. Sterling Shepard had his contract reworked by the Giants. No terms as to the specifics. He tore his Achilles late last year. He was going to be a cap casualty if he didn't do it. Titans made a hard decision. They cut Pro Bowl guard Roger Saffold. They saved over $10 million in doing so. Lions announced they're going to cut Trey Flowers and save $10 million. And Washington offered Landon Collins a pay cut. He said, no thanks. So they cut him, and they saved $6.6 million. Remember, Wednesday afternoon, all the teams have to be cap compliant at $208.2 million. College basketball, the Gators, welcome to the NIT. Overtime losers, damn near at the buzzer to A&M, 83-80. Mike White's team's 19-13. I wonder just how warm that seat is. Rest of the SEC, Mississippi State, LSU, and Vandy with the shocker over Alabama to advance. Big Ten, Indiana, alive and well on the bubble, thank you very much. 74-69 winners over Michigan after being down 13 at the half. And you have to wonder how close to the bubble the Wolverines are now. Iowa, Michigan State, and Penn State with the shocker over the Buckeyes advanced in the Big Ten tournament yesterday. ACC tournament, Miami in overtime on a fast break bucket at the buzzer. Beat BC 71-69. The Canes are definitely in the tournament now. Virginia Tech has life. They upset Notre Dame 87-80. By the way, the Irish's resume is not that great. Take away the win against Kentucky at all. You wonder how close to the bubble the Irish really are. Virginia Tech now firmly on the bubble. Duke ended Syracuse's season by 9. Carolina ended Virginia's season, at least in terms of NCAA hopes. The Tar Heels won by 20. Big 12, TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma advanced. The Sooners upsetting second-seeded Baylor. And now Oklahoma very much has life in terms of getting in the tournament. Big East, Providence, Creighton, Nova by 1 over St. John's, and UConn, of course, a winner. UConn loves the Garden. UCF beat South Florida in the American tournament last night, 60-58. FAU had their season come to an end. UAB beat them by 14, and FAMU lost in their conference tournament by 5 to Alabama A&M. Pac-12 winners last night were Arizona, Colorado, UCLA, and USC. Women's hoops, the AAC title game, UCF gets the automatic bid. South Florida should get an at-large. Knights by 8. NBA last night, Brooklyn said to the rest of the league, hold my beer. Whew. They went into Philly. Remember, Ben Simmons sitting on the bench, Sixers crowd all worked up. Yeah, 129-100 Nets, and it wasn't that close.
Firepower.
Remember,
that's what they got.
In about a month, Kyrie's going to be able to play home games too. And Brooklyn's going to be like a 7 seed. This could be a first-round playoff preview, Brooklyn to the Sixers, by the way. Golden State with Denver closing on them for the 2 seed. The Warriors said, not so fast. 113-102 winners on the road. Cam Reddish out for the year for the Knicks. He separated his right shoulder. NHL winners last night. Panthers double up the Flyers 6-3. Lightning a loser in Calgary 4-1. They're still angry about that 0-4 Cup final. Buffalo got all fired up. It was Jack Eichel's return with Las Vegas. Eichel with a great quote after the game. I mean, the place wasn't sold out, but the crowd was rowdy. And Eichel said something to the effect of, man, it only took 7 years and me leaving for the fans to get into it. Buffalo was into it. They won 3-1. Boston rallied to beat the Hawks 4-3. St. Louis all over the Rangers 6-2. Wild rallied to beat the Red Wings in a shootout 6-5. And we said it yesterday, could be a cup preview. It was scoreless late. Carolina beat Colorado 2-0. Other winners were Winnipeg, Ottawa in overtime, Arizona over Toronto in overtime. Leafs lost their goalie due to injury. They could be in trouble. Nashville, the Islanders, and San Jose also victorious. And the Players' Championship got underway yesterday. Have a feeling this tournament, if I had to bet right now, I'd bet on a Monday finish. Hell, I think Tuesday's in play because they're going to get 2 days worth of rain today and tomorrow. And then it's going to be like 50 with howling winds on Sunday. But for now, Tommy Fleetwood and Tom Hogue with a one-shot lead at 6 under. Play was suspended due to darkness. About a third of the field, not only didn't they finish, there's a lot of big names who got in 1 to 3 holes yesterday. Zalatoris and Rahm are 3 under. Hovland is 1 under amongst some of the bigger names. And as we approach 9 minutes before the hour, that was
the starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
If you were on the bubble heading into yesterday, the bubble was really small. You had to like your chances. And then the bubble got a lot bigger. Oklahoma with the upset over Baylor. A&M with the upset against Florida. If A&M beats Auburn, look out. They could be in. Indiana beat Michigan to go from out to, well, we got to consider them. And for that matter, it may have dropped Michigan from in to, we got to take another look. Same with Virginia Tech, who was out, beat Notre Dame. They're now squarely on the bubble. And the Irish, don't look at a team because there were 2 or 3 seed in their conference tournament. That doesn't mean anything. You drill down on Notre Dame's resume. They have like 2 quad 1 wins against 7 losses. I mean, I could argue Rutgers' resume is better than Notre Dame.
Well, Notre Dame also beat Miami in Miami.
They did, and they beat Kentucky early in the year, and the Kentucky win might get them in. But like another thing that hurt the Gators, who, I mean, we all think now are clearly out because they lost to A&M, but one of Florida's best wins was Ohio State on a neutral court in Fort Myers in the November tournament. Well, the Buckeyes lose to Penn State yesterday. I mean, if you're Florida, all the teams you beat, you needed them to win. So the bubble got a lot bigger yesterday. And because of it, if you were on the bubble or maybe just on the wrong side of the bubble, it's difficult to imagine that yesterday was a good day for you. Like Wake Forest, who lost on Wednesday. Yeah, just about everything that could go wrong for Wake went wrong yesterday. I mean, all the teams that they were tied with or maybe a smidge ahead of, well, they all won. So the likelihood is they got passed yesterday by a bunch of teams. Miller and Moulton. Dr. Roto will join us in studio coming up after the top of the hour. Now, Spitz pointing out I fell into the trap that Virginia Tech was favored by 2. Yeah, they might have been a betting favorite, but they weren't a favorite in terms of NCAA tournament and who was in and who was out. But you're right. All right, I did misspeak because technically they were favored. And they were in control of that game pretty much throughout. Miller and Moulton. You got an idea for a poll question over there? I mean, has that NASA helmet that's on your head provided any inspiration? Or are we going to have to rely on Dr. Roto here to come up with something?
I think we might need some help from the doctor.
Well, he's the only doctor that I know that still makes house calls. And he will be in studio here momentarily. Are we going to get a camera on him?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
People can see what the good doctor looks like. I don't know if he brought his stethoscope with him or not. Miller and Moulton. David Sampson to join us in about 35 minutes' time. Pat Kirwan at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Between baseball and football, my goodness, what will we talk about? Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Text the show if you never have before, FSN Radio, all one word, to 21,000, or get in the Twitch chat room. Dr. Roto next, Miller and Moulton.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Morning. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Mark, or Doc. You call me Doc. Oh my God. I would have shaved. I would have done something.
I mean, it could be me or you. It's up to you. The Twitch audience
wants to see me get in bed. Look, my eyeballs are like slits.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
You should have told me. I mean, we have a water boil notice by my house anyway, so it's a freaking nightmare. Oh. Nice shirt.
Oh, yeah, they got us shirts.
Oh, I'm going to talk about the shirt. I'm going to talk about
Got us
who knows
shirts.
on TV.
Mark is a T-shirt guy. I'm a collared shirt
Oh,
guy.
yeah, I know you are. Yeah.
So, how you feeling?
Good. You
I'm good.
feeling good?
Yeah, you know.
You lost a lot of weight.
Oh no, I gained. Oh no, I
You
did.
in your
but I-
face.
No, I'm fat.
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm at like maximum density. Oh yeah.
Really?
I don't know what you thought I looked like, but oh yeah.
It's been a while since. I mean, we haven't seen each other in a while.
No, I know. No, I'm
I've
heavier.
spoken to you, but I
I'm,
don't see
I'm
you.
definitely heavier than the last time you saw me. Oh yeah.
I lost a ton of weight. after
Yeah,
that.
I can tell.
A ton, like
Yeah.
25 pounds.
Yeah.
Because I don't eat out anymore.
I know.
I cook at home.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. I hit every drive-through known to mankind. So
But I
Uh.
no butters and breads and shit like that.
yeah, I know. I wish I had that problem. You and I need to switch diets.
Well, it just goes to show you. You had some lady's voice, like doing the starting five.
Yes, Vicky is her name.
Oh, okay.
She's the voice gal
Okay.
that we have. I think we'll redo it at some point.
I think so. She sounds like an older lady at the end.
She's not. Well, the other thing is that, and I told her, I said, Vicky, I just want you to read it. I don't want you to read it like you're trying to pick me
Yeah.
up.
She's like, and the starting five, David, is this.
Right. I said, I don't want any sex appeal. I just want you to read it.
How old is she? She had that like mom sex appeal.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right. MILF.
Yeah, she had the
totally.
MILF sex appeal.
Totally. She's got Naples Fifth Avenue written all over her. Absolutely. Here you go. I didn't fill it out because I don't know if you do your name or what you go by.
Thank
so
you.
You just fill it out. And
All right, thank you.
there you go.
Okay, music in the Twitch chat says, Doc, it's great to have you back and healthy.
Did you hear him okay?
Very light.
Oh, I got you.
Very faint.
Hold on.
Another one says, glad to hear you, Roto, again. I like to listen to him when he was a guest at Fort
Oh, yeah.
Myers
Okay.
Station.
I see him. Thanks, Felipe.
Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
How's that?
I don't know. Felipe, talk.
How's that?
Good? Hello?
A little
Oh.
low, but I hear him.
All right. When the
How about now?
Yeah, better now.
Better? Okay, I raised myself. All right, we're back in 30.
So at some point, I'm going to ask your, make sure you get out your site, what it is
Yeah.
you do, that whole deal. Because there are some people here who haven't heard you before.
All right, we're coming back.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, the Friday edition. Hope your week has gone well. And, this time of year, up and down the west coast of Florida, you should have plans. It's going to get cool. Particularly in the northern part of the state beginning today and tonight. And then we'll make it to the southern half of the state on the weekend. Make your plans accordingly. Mark off once again. He will be back on Monday. For those that have asked, I have no idea how well he played yesterday in the member guest. None. Zip, zilch, nada. If I had to guess, since I didn't hear a peep from him, I'm going to guess on the scale of good and bad, ever so slightly to the bad side, that if he crushed it yesterday, I probably would have gotten some notification, but that's just speculation on my part. I'm sure we'll hear all about it on Monday. Flied solo yesterday with the help of young Felipe, but Dr. Roto bailing me out in the house on this Friday, the only doctor who still makes house calls. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm fine. Great to see you. First off, for those in Tampa, St. Pete who may not listen to you nationally on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio and what have you, just, your quick resume, 30 seconds, go.
Quick resume. That's a lot of pressure.
I know that.
Let's see. I've been on the radio on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, channel 87. I'm on now Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 11. I used to be the morning drive guy. I was the graveyard guy for a while. I used to be on here in Fort Myers.
Yeah, Southwest Florida.
Southwest Florida, Sunday morning, doing a football show.
That's how I first heard about you.
Been doing, I was the FSWA Newcomer of the Year, if you could believe that, a 39-year-old Newcomer of the Year back in 2011.
Overnight sensation,
exactly. Who
and
knew?
damn near middle age, right?
And then, let's see, worked at Sports Illustrated, worked at Scout Fantasy, worked at Roto Experts, and now I work at drroto.com, my own site. Really proud of it. And
your own empire, actually. It's not a site, it's a mini empire. You have people that work for you and everything.
I do, and really good people,
right?
And friends, right? I when I decided to do this, I only wanted to do this with people I liked, because you don't want to get into business with people you don't.
Which is why, by the way, I am not part of drroto.com.
Don't tell anybody. Don't really like this guy, but it was good.
But he treats me nice and he pays adequately.
Exactly. And then I'm actually kicking off a new site, a sister site, coming this week. I'm excited.
Wow. You added more work onto your plate.
I did, but this is, we're going in the sports betting and prop betting realm here, which I know is your realm. And I'll tell you about it during break. It's exciting.
Well, and if Governor DeSantis would do it properly, it would be all of our realms, but instead of just Calvin Ridley's realm. But boom. All right. Hey, your thoughts on this baseball thing? Are you excited?
I was absolutely terrified that baseball was going to, pardon my language, screw itself for the future. Like, I asked myself, will my grandchildren, will little Roto's children, right? The little Rotos.
Wow, little Rotos.
Yeah, little Rotos. Will they be watching baseball in 30 years? And I think the answer is not as much as football and basketball and esports and MMA, honestly. But when baseball does things like this, it sets it back even further because people who are on the edge, think about it. Who watches baseball? Do the young kids watch baseball?
No.
15-year-olds watch baseball?
You're actually a young baseball viewer. Honestly, the average age of baseball is just younger than the average age of a golf tournament. Golf tournament average TV viewers like 57.
Okay.
Baseball is just below that.
And isn't that kind of pathetic? I mean, my son goes to one spring training game a year where my father-in-law flies down because he's a big Red Sox fan. We go together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Otherwise, he will never watch baseball. He watches football. He watches basketball. And so I worry kids don't understand lockout. They don't understand tax.
But to be honest with you, though you and I followed the last few weeks intimately, in some ways because we're fans and in some ways because it affects what it is that we do.
Right.
But most of the world out there is pretty busy. They're paying attention to a lot and not the inner workings of the baseball negotiations. The bottom line is they're going to start a week late. They're still going to play all 162 games. I mean, how much damage do you really think was done here?
Not as much as there could have been. If you missed Jackie Robinson's big day,
there you go.
They knew they didn't want to do that because ESPN, CNN, Fox, you name it.
Oh, yeah.
You name it. They were going to do something for Jackie Robinson.
Oh, no, that's going to make the nightly news for all three major networks April 15th. There's no doubt about it.
You could not miss that day because that is a blight on your
I agree.
on your product. So I think they felt that they needed to do that. But I mean, Rob Manfred, did that guy do anything to help this along? I mean, is he not the worst commissioner in sports?
Well, I mean, that's saying something, but no, I think right now he's at the top of the pile. I'll say this though. They're not going to miss any games. And he did say at the beginning of this, I've negotiated 5 of these now. We've never missed a game and we're not going to miss one now. And it would be catastrophic, he said, if we did. And at the end of the day, they're not. Like, I actually think they did some damage to their base. Like, those of us were somehow morally offended at how they went about this. But the sport's trying to get beyond its base. I don't think that they lost a non-hardcore baseball fan by everything that went on, because I don't know that they were paying attention.
No, I agree. I mean, as long as you don't miss games, nobody cares that it's a week late. Does anybody care? Do you care? I don't care because those games get canceled anyway. In Colorado, half those games get canceled.
Well, and also we've got March Madness. I'll be fired up about the Masters. No, I said it that baseball, and for the longest time, baseball's opening day was April 15th. That's why that was the day Jackie Robinson debuted and broke the color barrier. But to me, baseball shouldn't start before National Championship Monday anyway. And I would even start it the Monday after the Masters.
If I could start baseball every year on April 15th and I could end baseball right around September 15th, I think baseball will be a better product.
Right. And of course you can't, not with 162 games. You'd probably have to have 144
Which I'd
game
be fine
season.
with.
I think most people, I even think a lot of players and owners would be fine with it. But of course there might be some money lost and nobody wants to give up. In theory, you expand the playoffs, you could make that money back. You really could, but nobody wants to get that creative.
But when I was listening to you when I was coming into the studio and you had mentioned about Scott Boras being a major cog to this. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I would think that's a good thing because Boras is a pretty smart dude. I mean, he's shrewd, but at the same time, is he thinking about everybody or is he just thinking about the 2%ers?
Right. I mean, he's thinking about who he represents, and he and the Players Association, quite frankly, have always believed, for those that go back politically anyway, 40 years. I mean, the players have always believed in trickle down economics. All right. You need to that's why they've never been for a cap. That's why they are very anti a cap. They'd be willing to discuss a floor, but they're completely against a cap because they believe that the money will fall down. I think what's going to happen here in baseball is what has happened in football, is that the 6-7 year veteran in football is the endangered species every year. But football implemented a rookie wage scale, and baseball, by limiting when it is you can really make money, in its essence, has figured out a rookie and young player wage scale. So you got the top end, Scherzer, you got the minimum wage guys,
Right.
and we'd all like to make 700,000 for a minimum wage,
Right. Or for the show.
Yeah. And then you've got the guys in between, and has been pointed out, Roto, that like if you're the owner of pick a team, you tell your general manager, our payroll's 150. Can't go above 150 without asking permission. Just let you know that right now. Well, if you're that GM, so you got your rookies and you got your two high paid guys, and then what do? You squeeze the middle.
So I've mentioned this on Sirius XM. There's a game. Do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Okay. So you've got to promise me when we're off air that you're going to download this game called Pocket GM 21. It's a football game. Okay. And you're the general manager of this team, and you get a salary cap, and you can make trades and draft picks. What you realize very quickly, at least I'm just going to use football, for example, is that once your quarterback gets past that 5th-year deal and his salary jumps up to $25 million, it changes your entire team, right? Completely. Because now you got to cut other guys. You can't have that linebacker. You can't have that third receiver.
Right.
And I think baseball's figured out that middle tier was overpaid. So, I mean, but then at the same, when the service time is not, when teams don't want to bring guys up, then it's a problem on the bottom end too, because they should be wanting to bring guys up. Is Julio Rodriguez for the Mariners going to play this year or not? I want to see him.
Well, I think now he will.
But in the old days,
I think with the way they just restructured it, I don't think the Rays hold Wander Franco down in Charlotte until the middle of June.
Which was the worst, right? Because you don't want your team to give up 2 months by putting in some, Joey Wendell. I know he's not there anymore, but when you want to see Wander Franco.
Right. The other thing, by the way, which Wander Franco is an interesting case study. One of the smaller details is like he was held out for the first 10 or so weeks of the season. And because of it, he doesn't get a full year of service time and all that. And the players are tired of the owners doing that. And so what they want is the rookies who are held out just long enough to not get the full year of service time, but then they come up and they finish high or maybe even win Rookie of the Year. Well, they're like, come on now. If a guy in 4.5 or 5 months can win Rookie of the Year, he deserves a full year of service time. So the owners relented, but they said you have to finish in the top 2 for Rookie of the Year. Right. Do you know where Wander Franco finished for Rookie of the Year?
3.
He finished 3rd.
Right.
So he was held out to not get the service time. And because he was held out till mid-June, he finishes 3rd in the Rookie of the Year. If he comes up in mid-May, he probably finishes top 2 or wins it, and he gets his full year of service time.
But understand this, in football, we will be watching the draft asking ourselves, will Malik Willis be starting as a rookie? Will Kenny Pickett be starting as a rookie? Will Chris Olave be starting as a rookie? People love that.
Right.
In baseball, you don't see your rookies. They're stuck down in Charlotte and, other random places because they don't want to bring them up because they don't want to start the service time. It's inherently crappy.
In fact, not only in the NFL do we wonder, will they be starting? In a lot of cases, we're counting on them to start.
Right.
I mean, like if you're an Eagles fan, you're looking at picks 15, 16, and 19 going, well, that better be 3 starters.
3 receivers, by the way.
Well, at least 1.
2.
At least
2.
1. I have a feeling they may buy a receiver. They have
Amari
a little
Cooper,
bit.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, it's possible.
But you need a guy who can throw it to him on target.
Well, hey, come on now. First things first. Miller and Moulton. Dr. Roto in the house filling in for Mark, who will be back on Monday. You need to help us with a poll question. All right. We need a poll question that will last through the weekend. It's got to have some legs. Think about it. We'll come back with a poll question on the other side. David Sampson to join us to talk about the baseball deal, his thoughts about it, and what it means for the present and the future of baseball. That's in a little more than 20 minutes time. Some football talk. So much has gone on this week with Dr. Roto on the other side. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, the Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with the Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Dude, I'm not taking your job.
Really could care less.
Yeah,
Right.
literally.
But
I don't think about you. You know.
exactly. All right. Twitch chat room. Felipe, poll question. What are you thinking? Need input. Got it. Good. This is the first time in 5 months, by the way. That is the first time in 5 months. Okay, good. Think about it.
It's just
some
I
more.
have so many bad ones.
I'll get
but
back
no
to
good
you.
ones.
Yeah, feel it. All right, just say them. Say them out loud. It's okay.
Which one seed loses? I mean,
Nah, nobody cares.
exactly. No one cares.
How about a baseball one?
Do we do baseball one?
Do you like the new rules? Do you like an international DH?
No one cares about the international draft. You could ask people about the DH.
The DH.
Okay.
That's international DH.
The international DH?
There's no
It's
such
an
thing as
international. I
DH.
don't know.
That's
What is Felipe
fantastic.
talking about?
I don't know.
I think you think people give a shit about baseball?
Well, our baseball poll questions usually do not go over.
I would
well.
say football, right?
Let me just don't move. All right, I will. There you go. Because we're not using it.
What the fuck?
He just,
How did Baylor lose?
That's a great.
it's a great question.
They had won 8 straight against Oklahoma too, I think.
I watched a little of the second half. They just were careless with the ball.
USC tried to give it away yesterday. They had 23 turnovers last night. Still won.
He got a big contract.
He got an extension. He didn't ask for more money. He
How is
wanted
FGC?
more.
How is FGCU this year?
Well, they won 21 games and they fired their coach.
They fired Fly.
Yeah, they fired Fly.
Fly.
Yep.
Why'd they get rid of him?
AD didn't like him. Boosters didn't like him.
Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
So who are they going to bring in?
Don't know. I'll bet you it's someone who's been a head coach before, though. I don't think he'll go the assistant route, which he's gone with his first 3 hires.
Well, I mean, look, they've got a good product. They just need a better.
Well, they need to market it, and their marketing's horrible. But by early out, what do you mean? You mean first round? Because they're going to be like a 5-6 seed. I think they win 1 game. I don't know if they can get to the Sweet 16.
Oh my God, that was a brutal poll question by Hops.
Wow. Look
It's a
at
Tough
that.
crowd.
That
That's
is
a tough
that's-
crowd.
Come on.
Okay,
I'm
that
only in
is
for one segment.
Well, and before that, he's making fun of my, my skills or lack thereof. So, Hops, what kind of
got
mood
skills.
you're in this morning, man? That, oh my, it's only St. John's season there.
Who's the head coach at St. John's?
Mike Anderson.
Oh. I've been playing a lot of college basketball DFS this year.
Have you?
Oh,
First off, you have more time than you think. You really do. You can take a dribble damn near per second when you've got it. It's like 2.5 seconds there. He easily could have taken 2 dribbles.
yeah.
Look at this.
Boom.
Bang.
That's a stone cold killer right there.
Yeah, that's tough.
No, Hops, I know. I'm just saying, you're just bringing the sarcasm this morning. That's all.
One of the cleanest game winners I've ever seen right here.
Oh yeah, this was cool.
This was clean. Charlie Moore. Dime, layup, bang, game.
BC was playing better.
They upset somebody the day before.
Yeah. Wake Forest.
Yeah. Or do you want to do a football poll question?
Football's better.
Yeah. You want to do something about, I don't know, quarterbacks?
Where will Mitch Trubisky sign? Or nobody
Um,
gives a crap about him.
If you were a team who needed a quarterback, which one would you go? Garoppolo,
Derek Carr?
Trubisky? Well, the Carrs, you have to trade for him. I mean, I'm talking about somebody who's available.
Winston.
Okay.
Nobody. See, I don't know how many people are off the Winston train. I think.
I think-
How about who will be the Steelers starting quarterback next year? Next season? Do we have Steeler fans down here?
Khalil Mack, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, or
Oh, well, something with Deshaun Watson?
we're
Would
coming
you
back.
sign this?
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$20 past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Mark off again today. He will be back on Monday. We don't do this very often. Dr. Roto pinch hitting for the final 3 hours of the show, and we thank you for that. We don't ask people to get up early very often. So
For you, I didn't even shave this morning. If I knew I was on TV, I would have shaved.
I
I got some gray stuff going on here,
You-
showing my age. When
you-
usually I shave, you don't.
I
look
know
at least
that.
20 years younger.
I did not think of this because we're broadcasting live the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. So that's what Doc means by, we're on TV, because technically we are, and you could put us on the big screen in your house. And there are a few who actually do. And, I say that that's damaging to the kids and you really shouldn't do that. And so, yes, I am fairly clean shaven. I've got a shirt with a collar on, the whole
I got
deal.
a Lions hat, a
Right.
ripped t-shirt, and a beard.
Exactly. I open up the back door at 6:55 and Doc looks at me and goes, seriously? All right. I'm sorry. So I do feel as if I sandbagged you, but it was really unintentional. You know that. I would never do that to you. Let's talk some football. And I have a feeling we stumbled upon a poll question during the break, and we'll unveil it by the end of the segment. Crazy week. And we'll only get more nuts between now and Wednesday afternoon just for teams to get cap compliant. Then never mind the next 5+ days that's going to ensue when free agency gets underway. Pick it up wherever you want this week. Russell Wilson to Denver at this moment in time, looking at the rosters in that division, you think Denver is where?
Second, I still am going to take the Chiefs because of Mahomes and Kelsey and
Sure.
Hill. But I think, why do you think the Chargers went and got Khalil Mack?
Absolutely.
They had no choice. You don't
Mack
get Khalil
on one
Mack.
side,
Yeah, and
Bosa
Bosa
on the other.
and
Yeah.
Derwin James and
Right.
the kid Kenny Murray in the middle. I mean, you have to do that because right now, I mean, think of that division. Let's assume Carr's back. Carr, Wilson, Herbert, Mahomes.
I think Karl will be back, by the way.
I think if he's not, they're in the biggest trouble of known to mankind.
Well, it makes no sense. I mean, no offense. You can't do better than Derek Carr if you're Las Vegas right now. If for some reason you're going to trade Derek Carr, who are you going to get back that's better? Honestly, there are not. I don't know if there are 10 quarterbacks in the league better than Derek Carr.
I think it's funny. I don't think so either, but I don't think people appreciate that.
No, they
You
don't.
think of Derek Carr, you're like, the guy's top 20. No,
But-
he's really like top 12.
You're right. And you can't do, I mean, straight up, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. Derek Carr,
yeah.
right. And
Cousins is the most overrated, overpriced
but
quarterback in the NFL.
by the way, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC
know.
right now.
Hello, fantasy guy. But would you pay him $40 million?
Well, of course not. Nobody's played the game, by the way, better than Kirk Cousins at all.
But
I mean, World Hall of Fame business player,
Oh, yeah.
Kirk Cousins. But okay, fine, you put Denver second, which is interesting. I mean, because the Chargers roster
only
is
if you let
pretty good.
Javonte Williams be your starting running back, because that guy is special.
Now, remember, we got time here. Cuts can still be made, trades can still be made, people can still be signed. But at this moment in time, you would move the Raiders, who made the playoffs, you would move them behind Denver, and the Chargers, who just missed out by a field goal in the last play of the regular season,
Right.
you would have them behind Denver.
Yeah, and here's why about the Chargers. The Chargers are snake bit. And I'm a Charger guy. I am. I'm a Justin Herbert guy. I'm an Austin Eckler guy. I mean, I've had him in the first round of a lot of leagues last year. There's always something at the end, right? There's always something at the end of a game where they don't close it out. You ever notice that? The Chargers lose more 3-point games than any team in the NFL.
Well, and their head coach is Mr. Analytics. Nobody goes for it on fourth down all over the field quite like Staley.
And at the end of the year, I mean, calling that timeout, I mean, the worst timeout in the history of the NFL.
Well, and I could argue that he cost them the second game against the Chiefs at home that Thursday night with all the fourth downs he went for.
He did. So, I mean, look, you could bring in Khalil Mack. You could bring in Connie Mack. You could bring in any Mac. You want to keep bringing a Big Mac.
Mac the knife.
Mac the knife. Any Mac you could think of. But when you make those kind of dumb calls at the end of the game, you're losing.
Can't believe
you get a smack.
Mac the knife. Big Mac. Man, we're on a roll. Miller and Moulton on this Friday. So that's Russell Wilson. Rodgers staying in Green Bay. Well, it is if you want to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, there was no team situation that was better than staying in Green Bay. I mean, I'm done trying to analyze him as to whether or not this was all a big contract play, power play to basically prove, what you guys did with Jordan Love. I'm going to turn around and shove it up your, I have no idea anymore.
But legacy wise, right? You want to win Super Bowls. You're at a point in your career, it's about winning. In your conference, you have Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and a bunch of guys who are not good. Well, you have Matt Stafford. In the AFC, you've got everybody, Y.A. Tittle and Johnny Unitas.
Right. Well, very quickly, Stafford's the number 2 quarterback in the NFC. Now, he did just win a Super Bowl. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, I do think that we should speak a little bit more highly of him than most people do. But Dak's the 3rd best quarterback in the NFC.
Right.
And then it's Kirk Cousins and or Matt Ryan, who are 4 and 5, which shows you just how tumultuous, how much turmoil, how much just the NFC is in flux.
So basically what happens is that Aaron Rodgers should be 2 games from a Super Bowl every year.
Of course.
Right? Yes. Where in the AFC, Russell Wilson may not even make the playoffs next year.
Correct.
Right. But Aaron Rodgers is 2 games from a Super Bowl.
Right.
So can you blame him? And you have Devontae Adams, who is literally the 1st or 2nd best receiver in the NFL. You have A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Get yourself another receiver, get yourself another linebacker, and you're good to go.
Well, they've been 2 games in the Super Bowl each of the last 3 years, and they've either lost the first or second game.
I don't know how they lost to San Francisco this year.
Yeah, I don't either, and I was there. I don't.
That's right. You were there. I love Deebo Samuel, but man,
defense gave up 212 yards.
Yeah.
Packers gave up 212 yards and lost at home.
Because they couldn't do anything offensively, which is very strange.
And Rodgers really played badly. I mean, it's one of the very few times in recent years that you can say, number 12, you did not help us win today. He was really locked in on Devontae. The whole second half, he didn't look at anybody else. On the interception at the end of the game, he had a wide open receiver on a cross. Wide open. Because Devontae was double teamed, and the safety left the middle of the field, and it would have been a 30-plus yard pass play easy, would have gotten them to midfield, and then from there, they probably win.
But it's been their biggest Achilles heel all along. Why do you think he made them go get Randall Cobb back? I mean, Valdez-Scantling, I don't know if he trusts anybody like he trusts Devontae. He needs a number 2.
No question about it. And it's a receiver-rich draft. Maybe you can get one at the end of the first round.
They never draft receivers.
I understand that, but they also haven't done a few things that they've done now in the last year. I will say this. I do think Aaron has gotten that organization out of their comfort zone. Right. All right. They've done some things that they don't normally do. The other thing that he's gotten them to do is he's gotten them to spend some money. And I don't necessarily mean on free agents, but how they're structuring contracts. I mean, the Packers are beginning to pull the Saints. There is going to be a bill that comes due in 2 or 3 years.
Like Drew Brees, right.
The difference, though, is that the Saints pushed everything down the road and a pandemic hit, and the cap went down. All right. The Packers are pushing, and a couple of other teams are pushing it down the road, and the new network TV deal is going to kick in, and the cap's going to go up 30, 40 million a year. I mean, in 2 years, the cap's going to be over 250, and in 4 years, it's going to be like 280. And a lot of these teams think they're going to be able to afford kicking the can down the road because they're going to be swimming in so much money.
And they're probably right. But I have an impromptu Green Bay Packers poll question for you.
All right.
Who was the worst Packers draft pick, Jordan Love or Tony Mandrich?
I could try to spin. Well, it's definitely Mandarich because he had 4 Hall of Famers taken in and around him. All right. But it's funny, by drafting Jordan Love, all right, it has created this angst from Rodgers, which has also now created this sense of urgency from the Packers. And in a strange, perverted way, drafting Jordan Love could lead to a Super Bowl down the road.
That's what Gutenhurst was thinking. He was
Right.
thinking that when he drafted him.
That's how
all
they're going to
along.
spin it.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to spin it. But all right, poll question. Let's go football because they do the best and they can last longest. And besides, we've done a lot of baseball poll questions in the last 2 weeks. So I don't necessarily want to go down the road of, hey, are you happy the settlement or, universal DH or what have you. So football poll question. I say we go. Want to go quarterbacks?
Let's go quarterbacks. How about our friend? I got one for you. I think isn't Deshaun Watson the trial they're trying to figure out?
Today's the day whether or not you truly can indict a ham sandwich, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do something with him.
The prosecutors go before a grand jury and try to get him indicted.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that you've been able to say for the last year is that he has not been, quote, charged with anything. Today is supposed to be the day when we find out whether or not there will be criminal charges or not, which is kind of a big deal.
So how about something like if you were a general manager, would you be trading for Deshaun Watson?
Would you trade on March 11th? It's the 11th, right?
I think so.
Okay. Would you trade for Deshaun Watson?
Done.
If I'm an NFC general manager, I'm polling my fan bases because the conference is so wide open. He would immediately be the second best quarterback in the conference, and he's 11 years younger than the best quarterback.
Well, if you're the Panthers, who seem to be the most interested, your team is in complete disarray. You're
Correct.
talking about getting rid of Christian McCaffrey Roto, which is never a good idea. You can't stand Sam Darnold. So you may want to bring him in. And if you piss off a few people in the fan base, it doesn't matter because he's going to give you a chance to win, unlike anybody else.
My prediction again is Tampa Bay. I'm telling you, I think he ends up in Tampa.
How is that possible with their cap problems?
I'm telling you, I think he ends up in Tampa Bay. Guys can be released. Contracts can be restructured. I don't think they want to go back to being the Buccaneers. I don't.
I think Bruce Arians is about when they lose Fournette and they lose Rojo, is Bruce Arians going to make it to this year, or is he going to quit and then Byron Leftwich is the coach?
No, I think he will suffer through one more year, and it will depend on the quality of quarterback as to how much suffering that it is. Back to this with Pat Kirwan, maybe in 30 minutes time, but next, David Sampson, as we revisit the baseball deal and who won, what it means for the present, what it means for the future with David Sampson next on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
He's in Jeter's inner circle. He knew Giambi was going to be a Yankee 6 months before it happened because they all knew Giambi was coming.
Right. Well,
that's so funny. That Freeman and Correa would be today.
Oh,
be done.
today.
Yeah,
be done. Right. Be done. And if I'm a Yankees fan, I really, first off, you now have $20 more million to spend because you stayed under the $210 million limit. We've just bumped it to $230.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to be buying somebody, right?
Well, I think, Gleyber Torres is not very good. He's not. He could be. He's a better utility guy than he is starter.
Well, and he certainly is not a shortstop.
Do you think they move him to third?
No, because they leave LeMahieu there. I think they
What
move
about
him to
Urshela?
second. I think they move him to second.
What about Urshela? You just get rid of him,
I
or you make him a utility guy?
you
He's
know,
good.
Yeah, he is. Maybe they leave LeMahieu at second. I don't know. Personally, you know, Cashman hasn't been willing to trade any of his young guys.
I know, and maybe that's smart. For years, they always did. So my old boss's son is going to be a first-round pick in the Major League Baseball.
Really?
Ian Ritchie Jr. It's going to be a top 10 pick.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right?
So you got that, Philly? With the poll question, make sure you spelled Deshaun.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to.
correctly.
I'm gonna have to type it on that computer.
Okay.
Hold on.
You're gonna have to slide back.
I can't post tweets on TweetDeck. So, one more time.
Would you trade for Deshaun? It's capital D and it's ESHAUN. Watson.
E and then capital.
Capital D,
Yeah, E.
ESHAUN. All lower case. Watson.
S.
No.
Or should I-
Yes, comma, I'll take the heat. No, comma,
Too much of a liability.
no, too much baggage. Yeah, Hobbs, I agree. I think Sampson's terrific. I'll take the heat. No, too much baggage. There you go. Make sure it's like 3 days.
Oh. All right, I'll just do it next break because I gotta call David.
No. Did you post it or no?
Yeah, I posted already.
Okay, that's fine.
Is Samson on every week?
No, but he comes on when it's big.
Where's the chat stuff now? He doesn't have it anymore.
Is that it?
No, it was like a chat. Oh, you know where like Hops and all those people were
Yeah, I
talking?
know. I thought that was Twitch.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
We just alternate questions.
Sure.
Our off time's around 54, so you figure we'll have 15 or so minutes.
Okay.
With them. He grew up in Miami, so the first time he called David Sampson, he was like giddy. He's like, I can't believe I'm talking to David Sampson.
Does he work for Beasley?
No, he works for us.
David's on hold. We're coming back.
He's a senior. He graduates in less than 2 months at FGCU.
So you guys hired him?
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network. Mark off once again. He will be back on Monday. Dr. Roto, kind enough to join us in the house here on Miller and Moulton. We welcome one of our favorite guests and one of our audience's favorite guests, David Sampson, former president of the Miami Marlins. You should be listening to his daily podcast, Nothing Personal with David Sampson. Follow him on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson, David P. Sampson. David, it is, well, David and the Doc. How are you?
It's spring. I'm happy.
All right. Your first reaction to the deal besides you're happy?
Well, I think we realized that both sides were at the edge of the cliff, about to fall into the abyss of a summer without baseball. And they looked at each other yesterday and said, okay, that's enough. And it was almost like a cartoon, because 99 days of staring at each other and yelling through each other, over each other, under each other. And they finally realized that, there's nothing left to fight over. The players get enough of a victory to say they won. The owners get a small enough loss to say they didn't lose. And we get 162 games. The players get paid in full, and everybody forgets about this within a matter of moments.
David, hi, it's Dr. Roto. My question for you is this. Do you worry about baseball's damage to its game so that our grandchildren may not be watching baseball as much as they are today?
No, I think that I worry about not what this labor deal did. I think I worry more about the on-field product. So I'm pleased with the joint competition committee that will include active players and MLB executives and an umpire as they look to change rules. The one thing that I did over 18 years in the game is I tried to make people understand, especially the old white people, that listen, we have to be like the NFL and the NBA. We have to be willing to change rules just like they do. And we have to acknowledge that that's not going to ruin the game. It's going to actually help the game. So my bigger focus is on changing the game on the field, much more so than what the CBT levels are or the minimum salary is.
As you understand it, because there was talk about rule changes, there's talk about being able to implement said rule changes in 45 days. Besides the universal DH, is the game going to change in 2022?
No, it's not going to be 2022. I think it's going to be more like 2023. So this committee will be formed and they'll meet. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, wants to have a good relationship with the players now. He was pretty conciliatory in his press conference when the lockout ended. I think he realized that his Q rating was like negative 68. So he called Tony Clark and he really tried to extend an olive branch. The last thing he wants to do is unilaterally implement any rule changes. So it's best when they're in conjunction with players, because I think players recognize there are a few traditionalists, but most of them recognize that the game itself has become harder and harder to watch. And the more people who don't watch, the lower their salaries will be. So everybody's incentivized to make it better.
You know, it's interesting you said that, because baseball right now to me is strikeouts, walks, and the occasional home run. How do you make if I made you the commissioner tomorrow, how do you make this game more exciting?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is change the way players get paid. So when you go to arbitration with a player, you know, all of these new analytic stats like WAR and OBIP and BOP and BOOP and JEEP, the real thing is home runs, runs batted in. That's from an offensive standpoint. On base percentage, slugging. And I would change it so that you're actually rewarding players who are gap hitters, who are hitting doubles, singles, even reward the person who hits the triple. Because right now, players are more than happy to just wait to hit the home run, because they get paid for the home run and they don't get deductions for the strikeout. So imagine if we had a system where the more you struck out, the less you got paid. I promise you there'd be a bunch of contact hitters in the game. And that's what I think fans want. That's the excitement, because what's the fun of sitting around and waiting for the 3-run home run? You're not going to get it often. When you do, it's really cool and exciting. But I think that making the bases bigger, which I think will encourage runners to actually run more, because there's, let's say, a quarter of an inch fewer yards and feet they have to go in between the bases. So anything that gets the game in motion is something I'm in favor of.
Well, the argument is the most exciting play in baseball is a triple, and it's darn near obsolete. He's David Sampson. Follow him on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson, David P. Sampson. His daily podcast is Nothing Personal with David Sampson, and you can also see his work at CBSSports.com and CBS Sports HQ. 12 teams now in the playoff instead of 10. They do away with the one-game wild card, and they also do away with one-game tiebreakers. We will never have a tiebreaker game. You know, the famous Yankees-Red Sox 78 Bucky Dent will never happen. You know, the shot heard round the world from Bobby Thompson would never happen again. Your thoughts on the changes they've made to the playoff structure?
Well, as a small market executive for all those years, I want the most teams in the playoffs as possible because that is how we can have a chance to win a ring and how we can have a chance to sell into the next season to increase season ticket holders and corporate sponsorships by actually being a playoff team. I think one of the problems is that the networks love and the fans love one-game elimination. That's why March Madness is so successful for CBS. That's why the NFL playoffs are so successful. Forget gambling and everything else. Just the fact that win or go home has this allure to it that gets people who are maybe moderately interested to watch. And now we're eliminating that. But the hope is that of the 3-game series, and there'll be 4 3-game series in the first round, the hope is that you will have, 4 3-game series. The hope is that at least 3 of those will go to a third game. That's why MLB did not want the ghost win or anything like that. They wanted the chance to maybe have those elimination games. But again, we'll see what happens. But from Tampa's standpoint, as an example, does having 2 extra playoff teams, will that change the way they operate? And my answer to that is a resounding no.
And I think that's an interesting question here because, you know, we see that pitchers don't even throw more than 150 innings anymore. Tampa's changed the game with its openers and bringing in so many pitchers. Will we ever see pitchers who throw 200 innings, or is that just going to be as rare as anything in baseball?
I think it's going to be unbelievably rare, and it's disappointing. But on the other hand, it makes spring training less necessary to be so long because the purpose of spring training is to build up your pitching, and so pitchers can go 9 innings or over 100 pitches to start the season. But the numbers just say that you're not well served by having a pitcher go through the lineup 3 times. On the other hand, I was a part of a team where we wanted the pitchers when they were on, and we would use our eyes, not the analytics, not the numbers, to decide whether that pitcher that day could go through the lineup a third time. And the reason why I like fewer pitchers pitching in the game, and Tampa has suffered from this from time to time, when you have 6 pitchers pitch, in order to win the game, you need every single one of them to be on point during the game. And what are the odds that one of the pitchers just sort of has a bad inning and gives up 2 runs? In a all-star game, you've got pitchers who pitch an inning, give up runs, and they're still all-stars. But in a playoff game, that can obviously go from a win to a loss. So I always thought the more pitchers who pitch, the better chance you have of having one of them give up runs. So I want my pitchers to have length, but I guess I'm just a relic.
David, is there anything that the players got from the owners? Because they're obviously trying to get more spending. So the minimum salary got raised. They also want less tanking. So they got a draft lottery, top 6 now. You know, one of those 6 will get the number 1 pick. There's no guarantee. The CBT raised $20 million. Do you think there's anything that the players got that is going to return the owners to spending money, say the way they did 10 years ago?
Well, I think that if you look at the CBT and you look at the 5 to 7 teams who went right up against it last year, so their payrolls were like 206, 208, and they were very, very focused on not going over that number at the trade deadline. They weren't going to take on money, et cetera. Let's just talk about the Phillies as an example. I think that they will, even the Yankees didn't take on money when they got Gallo last year, as you recall. They had the Rangers pay his contract. I think you'll see a bunch of teams go right up to the 230 mark now because they can without paying the tax. I think you'll still see the Dodgers and the Mets blow through it. But I think what the players got and succeeded in getting was the top teams spending a bit more. And I think they got the minimum raised, which means younger players will get paid more sooner. They got a pre-arbitration pool, which is an extra $50 million split amongst a bunch of players who didn't make arbitration yet. But as far as tanking, I do not think that any team will run differently when it comes to rebuilding or retooling or whatever they want to use to spin it publicly. just because they have a smaller percentage of getting the top pick in the draft. You don't rebuild because you want the top pick. You rebuild because you look at your roster and you see that they are not in the range of winning. And if you acknowledge that and you acknowledge it soon enough, which the Rays are the best in the business at doing, you have the ability to lessen the amount of the losing years and increase the amount of the winning years. And that's what Tampa, again, makes everybody jealous because they're so good at.
Let's ask the most important question here. Survivor was back on this past week. Did you watch it? Did you miss it?
Of course I watched it. I've never missed an episode. And every time I watch the first episode, I have immediate flashbacks. And it's something I actually do from time to time that I don't like to admit. But I would say once a year, maybe once a year, I will watch the first episode of my season and I will relive, not just in my head, but actually on screen, all of the circumstances that led to me being the first person voted out, think about the things I would do differently, and then smile knowing that I had the experience.
So
and now there's another member of the First Boot Club, and we are a pretty exclusive club. There's only 40 of us who've ever been voted out first. So it's pretty cool.
What would you do? What would you do differently? If you had to do it over again, what would you do differently?
Well, I sure as hell wouldn't wear an ascot and a blazer. And I would have loved to have not been on the Brains Tribe. I would have not done as well. They give everybody an IQ test before you go on the show. And I would have gotten some more answers wrong, I think, and maybe tried to get on the Beauty Tribe.
They changed the rules, you know. I mean, it's a different game now than the one you played.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's always evolving. That's what makes Survivor. It's been around for 22 years, 42 seasons. The producers just do a great job of new ideas, new twists, and these players are so sophisticated. They use analytics. They watch every episode of every season. They try to predict what's going to happen, and it's fascinating to watch. It really is a very cool social experiment, and the hunger is real. I think you saw a contestant on the opening night say that. The hunger is real. The exhaustion is real. You're annoyed by being around these strangers who are, you know, just not the way you are and you're living in the woods. It's a total nightmare. And then on top of that, you have production where, you know, the tribal council, you get there hours in advance and you have to rehearse how you walk into tribal council and what stool you're going to sit on. Meanwhile, you're tired, you're grumpy, you're hungry, and you may be 10 minutes from going home on screen, but those tribal councils last a lot longer than 10 minutes.
So what do you think was more enjoyable, negotiations between the players and owners or those long days on Survivor?
Listen, I loved every minute of Survivor, but on the other hand, I loved negotiations of the CBA. I love negotiating. I love watching the game grow and watching it change and trying to figure out how to do the best you can for your side. And then when it's done, the most important thing that owners and players can do right now is what Rob tried to do by extending the olive branch. It's done, and there really should be no more talking about it, although I love coming on your show every day to talk about it. But now we got to talk about free agents. We have to talk about spring training, look forward to opening day, and get the focus back on the field. That's so critical.
David, I know this may be a tough question to answer. Derek Jeter leaves the Marlins. Did that surprise you?
No, the minute he bought the team and signed a 5-year deal, I knew he wouldn't make it past 5 years. I was very surprised that he left on February 28th, or that the Marlins decided to fire him on that particular day, because I know the owners and the commissioner would have loved to have had him as a spokesperson during this, put him out in front of the media as a former player, Hall of Famer, who now understands the management side to the extent that he can and does. But I think that he just failed, and now he joins me in another sort of very exclusive club, presidents who have failed in Miami. But I say that I got a World Series ring, he did not. But at the end of the day, it's so hard to engage that market. It's hard to get people into the stands. And I think he was very frustrated at his inability to do it. And his owners, who were putting money into the team with all the losses, just got tired of his shtick and just decided to move on and get to a real business executive in there.
David, have about 30 seconds. If I was running the Marlins now, the first thing I would do is I'd bring back Rich Waltz and Tommy Hutton. But a friend of mine loved the art work that was in left center field that was dismantled 5 years ago. Would you bring that back?
No, because it cost them $3.5 million to get it out. So instead of $3.5 million to bring it back right now, I would focus on the payroll and try to see if I could get a winning team, not in a 60-game shortened season, because that's what's going to be critical. We've never had that since Marlins Park opened, and having a real sustained winning team. Listen, my dream for 18 years really was to be the Rays. And I am not saying that because we're in Tampa right now. I mean, that really is the view where I want to run a team that really knows how to take advantage of a winning opportunity and extend it for as long as possible.
David, as always, thanks so much. Continued success with the podcast, Nothing Personal with David Sampson, and make sure you check him out. CBS Sports Family, CBS Sports HQ. David, all the best.
Hey, have a great day. Speak soon.
David Sampson, follow him on Twitter, David, the letter P. Sampson, David P. Sampson. Joining us here on Miller and Moulton. We'll switch gears. Football, Pat Kirwan next.
To John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I'm sleeping on the couch. 7 weeks. Right. Okay, trying to embrace the fact, and it turned out he died less than a year later, so it was great to have that time to hold him. So one day, they're holed up in the bedroom.
ROTO.
Yes. They're holed up in our bedroom. And all of a sudden, it's time for Melissa to go to bed. It's like 8 o'clock or something like that. They come running out. In the 60. Okay. And they get Melissa and kiss her and what have you. And they go running back into the room and they close the door. And Julie and I look at one another. And at 9 o'clock, they come out and they go, "Oh, I had to watch Survivor." Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, wow. Because we hadn't even heard about this show. And I guess it had just started.
I was hooked. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I haven't missed an episode since.
My in-laws were all over it from like episode 1.
Yeah. Somebody was talking about, I'm like, what are you even talking about?
8 o'clock, by the way, you feel the air.
I know. That's why I brought my
So we open the door, we get here before 5:30. Somehow, some way, like we used to come, the door was closed, so the cool air would stay all night. I will say the door now, somehow, some way, because we leave it propped open, I think they are now propping it open when they leave at 6 o'clock. So it's not as cold when we come in and then the air's off.
I'm gonna have to. That's why I'm glad I brought this.
Yeah.
Are you still masking up or not as much? Because of COVID?
I don't. I'm triple vaxxed, and no.
You don't worry about other people?
No. My wife does.
I do. If I'm outside, I'm cool. But if I'm inside, I mean, I know you're
Right.
triple vax. I'm saying
My wife does. Like, we have not gone to a restaurant together indoors.
Right.
We've gone like Shoeless Joe's deck and Outback's deck. It's literally.
If I
the only
eat
places.
indoors, I will be far away from you, and I'll be the guy in the corner.
Yeah.
Because I tell my kids.
My wife's still,
Yeah.
and with meningitis, and she was on the,
Right.
she was in a coma for days, and she was on the thing.
Right.
So this is PTSD for her.
Right.
The whole COVID
Right.
thing. So, and it's not that after 2 years, I think I'm bulletproof, but I guess now
You're over it.
when I got through this football season, and I'm like, I've been on 200 flights since the pandemic started. And
Were you masked on the flights?
oh, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I've had to, do
Right,
the
travel,
mask for
right.
1.5 football seasons.
Right,
And I just kind of feel like, some people, I don't know. I just think that.
Well, I mean, my kids still wear them at school for me. They're not wearing them for them. They're wearing
Okay.
it for me.
Right. That's funny, Hops. That's funny, Hops. We have one sponsor and you're busting our chops. I have no idea how our bills are getting paid. And you're picking on Napa's parts, Napa filters.
I want a steak bomb at John Smith's Sup. I've never even heard of
5 seconds.
John Smith's up. There's a location.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the final hour of the week for Miller and Moulton. If you live in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice, thanks so much for being with us. Mark off once again. He will be back on Monday. That is guaranteed. Dr. Roto filling in. We have not had many guest hosts over the years. Dr. Roto, kind enough to get up very early and join us on this Friday. First off, give out all your pertinent information, all right? I don't want you to do this just for free. Hopefully you can get somebody to
friends. I'm doing it for you anytime.
To a point. Come
All right.
on now. Hopefully somebody will sign up for what it is you do and all that, because your site is great and your staff is incredible.
All right. You can find me at Twitter at DRROTO, and you can find me at drroto.com. And David, I don't know if you know this. I am offering for this year, for a limited time, all NFL seasonal only and Major League Baseball seasonal only content bundled together, $50 for the entire 2022 season. You can't beat that. Seriously, you can't beat that. I know I'm insane, but I'm doing it.
You are insane.
I know.
You should have like a late night infomercial for 30 minutes with that type of offer.
I'm being honest, it's not about
these prices are insane.
No, I just want people to subscribe. I want people to win. It's about them winning. That's what it is for me. Okay. It is about people winning.
drroto.com.
drroto.com.
DRROTO. Miller and Moulton brought to you by Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Doc, insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Proud sponsor, Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network. Our poll question, today's actually a sneaky, significant day in the NFL, because the authorities in Houston go before a grand jury and try to indict Deshaun Watson. And they say you can indict a ham sandwich. We shall see, because if he's not indicted, you have to think that the trade market for Deshaun Watson heats up quickly. And if he gets indicted, you wonder whether or not anybody is going to go down that road.
So can I tell you, do you have time for a minute story? All right, I'll do it after. We'll do it after Pat Kirwan.
All right. Pat
Okay.
Kirwan is kind enough to join us once again. He does so courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how the heck are you? You've had nothing to talk about weekday afternoons on NFL radio with Jim Miller this week, have you?
Oh no, it's been a real quiet, boring week. It's been. Look, I think the off season. Look, there's nothing that substitutes for games, but the off season content, radio content, it's not boring. It never is, and I think the fans have come to learn that the teams are built now, not in the summer. Old timers think, well, you go to camp to make the team. You go to camp to rehearse. This is when the teams are being built or torn down. So it's been a lot of fun, and I don't think we're anywhere near done. I think next week is going to be brutal on veteran players. So many guys have roster bonuses due. The 18th, 19th, and 20th of March, you're going to see a dump out of a lot of guys.
Pat, Dr. Roto here. Glad to be with you. So here's a question for you. Did Seattle get enough in their trade for Russell Wilson?
Yeah. I think it's the standard now of what you can get. And I think and I know that Pete loves Russ, but they weren't going to ever resign him to another long-term deal. The agent is nonstop wanting big money, and they took what they could get. And I thought once Rodgers basically succumbed to the request of the Packers and got off the market, and what I was told by a very good source was the most anyone offered Green Bay for Rodgers was 2 number ones. Once he was off, it was time to go, we'll take 2 1s, 2 2s, and 3 players. So I think the leverage that the Seattle Seahawks got because Rodgers was out of the picture.
From what you know, or what you think you know, did Russ and his agent ultimately determine Denver? Because there are reports that the Giants and Washington both had pretty attractive offers out there. Or did Seattle just say, listen, we're not going to keep them in conference, and so Denver was the best option? Or since Russ had a no trade clause, did he ultimately take a look at the 4 teams and go, yeah, send me here?
He controlled the whole thing about where he was going to go, and he didn't want to go to New York, and he didn't want to go to Washington. And so he thought the best chance. I thought it was crazy personally going to the AFC, and you might as well, because there are a lot of hot young quarterbacks. It's going to be harder to get where he wants to go. There in the NFC, it's a pretty clear picture. There's 2 or 3 teams, and that's it. But he took on the challenge. That's where he wanted to go, at least for now. Remember, that guy's contract's going to expire pretty soon, and Denver is going to have their hands full trying to get him signed.
Pat, I think my biggest question was, why did Seattle choose Pete over Russ? Pete's 70 years old, and I'm not saying that that's old anymore, right? He could probably coach for another few years, but I don't know. It seemed like somebody had to go. Why isn't it Pete who's out of there? He resigns gracefully, because now without Russ, I don't think Lockett wants to be there. I don't think Metcalf wants to be there. You're looking at a complete rebuild with a 70-year-old Pete Carroll.
Well, I don't know how you know that, but I'll be interested in finding out off the air, number one. Number two, I don't think they're anywhere near done with their project. So let's wait and see who shows up as a quarterback there, because I don't think the quarterback for that team is on the roster yet.
Which brings us to the events in Houston. And we just talked about it before you came on, and Pat Kirwan joining us here on Miller and Moulton. Pretty big day in the year-long saga of Deshaun Watson today. If the grand jury does not indict, Pat, how quickly do you think the Texans are able to deal him?
I think the people that are serious and understand compensation have been in conversations with Houston for a long time. I don't know if today alone will clear it up enough for certain teams. It's fairly complicated. I think a couple teams still want to run it out among their fan base and media to see what the reaction would be to bringing him. I think a couple of guys are a little nervous about bringing him onto the roster. Look, all it takes is an owner's wife, and I've seen it before. Just put her foot down and say, no, we're not. That's not happening on this team. And I can bring you back to the Patriots when Mrs. Kraft at the time she's forced him to throw a draft pick out they took an hour before. So there's going to be some issues in that area. And I think some people that would be opposed to him haven't said a word because they didn't believe it was ever going to happen. So now if it gets to the point where it could happen, there's always somebody in the hierarchy that's going to say, no, we're not doing that. And the pressure of a wife on her husband who owns a team is real.
Pat, a lot of reports out of Carolina that they're interested in Deshaun Watson. Also, some more reports out of Carolina that they're willing to trade Christian McCaffrey. I mean, can you see that happening? Moving McCaffrey, bringing in Watson? Couldn't that be a PR nightmare?
It could be, but the owner is, he thought he was going to win by now. So he's a little different character. He's learning how to own, and he's obsessed with the idea of being good now. And he'd take the risk. Plus, Christian's, there's an injury history there that's starting to mount up when you start thinking about the cost of Christian McCaffrey and where you could conclude that he's not going to be a 17-game player anymore. And I also think some guys are starting to think that he's got to go to the slot receiver job and not be a running back. He's a very good receiver, but the wear and tear on him is starting to add up. So, yeah, I think he's easily expendable, in my opinion, from them. And, again, the owner didn't draft him. And it's really strange in life when they're not your kids, how you feel about them. So many people will bail on guys from another person's draft.
He's Pat Kirwan, moving the chains weekday afternoons on NFL radio. He's kind enough to join us twice a week during the season. When we first started this deal, the season was much shorter. All right. Now, Pat keeps coming on twice a week, all but like July. All right. I keep trying to shorten the season on Pat. Pat keeps saying, no. There's still stuff to talk about. I'll join you before I play golf. He joins us here on Miller and Moulton. Were you surprised, by the way? We had you on last Tuesday morning, and it was late Tuesday morning when Rodgers decided to stay. Were you surprised?
No, I thought they were going to put enough money in front of him, number one. Number two, not that the Clemens thing was a big deal, but they've been trying like crazy to make him happy. They know they can't win without him. I think they already have come to the conclusion that the kid they drafted is not going to be good enough. And they were just going to hold on to him. And they always had his rights. It's kind of like people keep talking like Rodgers will make the decision. Rodgers will decide if he's going to retire or be a Packer. That's all that was there. The Packers controlled everything else.
Pat Kirwan, he'll join us for another segment here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening on this Friday morning on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You golfing?
I played yesterday. I was supposed to play tomorrow, but it sounds like the weather's going to be terrible. I got some friends coming into town from upstate New York. They've been on the other side of the state most of the winter, but they're going to swing by here for a couple of days before they head north. So try to entertain them a little bit. And I don't know. The weather's been so great. I'm actually kind of feeling golfed out a little bit, but he's going to want to play. So off we go.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is the day.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of stuff I'm always looking for things to do with them. And a lot of things were moved to Sunday because of the weather. It's supposed to be a lot of wind and cold and everything else. So we'll see if that happens. I'm kind of making contingency plans. Like maybe I'll stay in and work on free agency in the draft and let him go do something.
Well, especially since, he won't think 72 degrees is the worst thing in the world, where you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be out in this.
No, I can take a day inside. I need a distraction day to force myself to not go outside and just stay in there and grind out a 12-hour spot and get on the phone a number of times. Saturdays are great days to catch up with my GM and coaching friends. They're kind of like take the weekends off. They don't really work as hard as you think on the weekends, and I can get them to return a call and talk. I was talking to Danny Quinn quite a bit about Bobby Wagner the other day. So
yeah,
he says,
it's
we're gonna have cap space. I said, well, I'll give you a couple ways to get it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about Wagner? I heard the play-by-play guy for the Seahawks do an interview on NFL radio, and I've seen Wagner a lot the last 2 years. I did not necessarily agree with his assessment. He thought that Bobby was no longer taking on blocks and he was running around blocks. And I got to admit, when I've seen him the last 2 years, I think he's been all over the field. I don't necessarily agree. I don't also think that the guys in front of him have been doing that great of a job. I think that maybe guys have been getting to him because the guys in front of him can't keep them off of him.
Yeah, the guys in front of him are not very good. I mean, Poona Ford's 5'10". They like him, but I don't. I'm with you. Let's just say he's half right. He runs right. The guy had over 100 tackles. He'll have 100 tackles this year for somebody, and he's not making tackles where he's catching guys for 9-yard gains.
Right,
so
which is
I'm with you.
Which is, like Jalen Smith in Dallas was running around tackles and getting tackles 8 yards downfield. I don't think that was Wagner.
But don't they like Jordan Brooks and Bob and Corey Barton?
I
think they're good.
I think that this is just
it's a transition move. So Jordan will be called the defense, and he's Pete loves the guy, so it'll just be his time. But they just Pete's behavior is a little bit more like Belichick's than people realize.
Right.
He's learned from Belichick. Get rid of him a year early and get something for him in the case of Russell. And don't get stuck with another big contract. He used to fall in love with veteran players to the point of paying them when it was too late. And I used to fight with him about it all the time. He's pretty good now about, let's play the young guys.
I thought Russell's play was really lacking a little bit last year.
Russell got heavy.
He did.
I was with him not too long ago. I wanted to tell him you look fat. I just said, why would I tell him something he already knows?
It's interesting how I wonder if he said no to New York this time because of the state of the Giants. Because remember, a year ago at this time, he, through his agent, was reportedly wanting to get to New York. It was going to be good for him and his career and his wife's career.
Yeah, I think Mama was pushing that one, and I don't think that he necessarily felt as strongly about it as she did.
I'd rather be in New York now than
moving
last
again
year.
in 2 years or a year. Let's just see how far he goes. Wait till they try to negotiate with that agent. The agent has one football
30 seconds.
player, him.
Who's his
Everything
agent?
else is baseball.
Who's his agent?
Oh, Mark. He's never had a football client before, and he only has one. And he's got baseball guys. So he tries to operate like it's the baseball environment, and it's not. So
10 seconds.
All right, here we go. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, man.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
18 minutes past the hour. Thanks for being with us. Friday edition, Miller and Moulton. Mark off again today, back on Monday. No, I have no idea how well he played yesterday and how he's doing in his member guest. So if I find out, I'll let you know. And Pat Kirwan is kind enough to join us once again on a Friday edition, courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Dr. Roto sitting in, co-hosting on this Friday. The last doctor to make house calls, as I bill him. Doc, take it away.
Exactly. So, Pat, I mean, a lot of teams out there looking for that quarterback, especially the Steelers. You know, we've heard Mason Rudolph has a winning record for whatever that means. They brought in Haskins last year. Ben's gone. Where do you think the Steelers go? Is it Pickett? Is it Willis? Or what do you think?
Yeah, they like to defend the quarterback they have, but they've always been like that. I would think they're going to take a good look at Trubisky. I don't think Mariota's their kind of guy. A couple of people are interested in Mariota, but I would say Trubisky should be in the mix. Haskins, to me, you might as well release him. He's really not going to play. And he's never been disciplined enough to become better. There's other guys that have struggled early, and then they just grind it out and get better. I don't see Haskins doing it. So if they go in the draft, if they don't take Pickett, that's some indictment of Kenny, because he's in that building with them. They've seen him every day for 5 years. So I would think he's a natural for them, but I think they might be interested. Now, Trubisky, and everyone thinks he's going to the Giants. The problem with that one is, he's going to have to get an assurance that they're not putting the option on Daniel Jones, because if they do, he won't go there. So his decision to go to the Giants is going to happen before they have to put the option on him, which I think is May 2nd is the deadline. So he's going to have to trust somebody, which most agents I know don't trust anybody.
Well, Pat, doesn't this go? You talk often about Dick Steinberg and others that you worked with who were great at being able to figure out when guys were going to be taken in the draft. And I am fascinated by, this clearly is not an ideal quarterback draft class, but there's so much need for quarterbacks that someone could take one of these guys much earlier than what the board says, which usually creates panic. That's how we got Jake Locker at 8 and Blaine Gabbert at 10 and Christian Ponder at 12. If you're the Steelers here, could this be maybe the biggest thing you need to figure out? Like, are these guys going to get drafted where they actually are on the board? Or if we're sitting here at 20, we're going to be too late. We'll get at best the third best quarterback in this draft because 2 of them will go before us.
There's definitely a long history of panic about quarterbacks, and people, what will happen next before we get to that panic button is they'll have pro days, which are a waste of time, but they'll have them, and it'll start to justify why they're moving these quarterbacks up. A guy in shorts with no opposition, no coverage, no pressure, and then someone's going to say, oh, he was great at his pro day. They know the pro day is a waste of time, but they'll use it to start getting it out there that there's, these quarterbacks are moving up the ladder, which is the first step. Then it seems to justify taking them. I'd be nervous to take any of these quarterbacks if you have to play them. There's nobody in this group, in my mind, that can go out and line up on opening day. Now, we've had guys like that can do it and should do it, and so they do it. But in this group, I think all of them, and that leads you to Pittsburgh. Like, do you really want to take one of these guys and put him on the field? I don't think so. So hopefully there'll be cooler heads will prevail. But I think you're right, David. I think they're going to land up wanting to take one. I've interviewed every one of these quarterbacks I've watched. Almost all of them came to the Senior Bowl, so I got a chance to see all of them except the Ole Miss kid and talk to many of them, and multiple times for a few of them. If I needed a quarterback this year, I'd be scared to death of taking one of those guys.
So with that in mind, Pat, do you think that the Commanders did the right thing getting Wentz? I think, the Colts couldn't get rid of him fast enough. And, we know that. Irsay didn't even want to take a meeting with him, they wrote. But, they couldn't find anybody, and they didn't want to go with Heineke this year. So do you think that the Commanders did the right thing getting Wentz because they felt like if they didn't get Wentz, they'd be stuck with Heineke or Kyle Allen?
I'm with you on this one. I think it's a little scary. Wentz is on his third team in 3 years, and he's got some of the issues. Now, last year he fell apart late. I think Frank Reich didn't even make this decision. This was Irsay all the way. Frank, Frank played for me for a while. I know Frank very well. Frank would have said, I can fix the few things he did wrong. Because for a part of the season, he played pretty good. And he had him when he was at the height of his career. So I think Frank would have said, look, I can fix it. And I think Irsay said, no vaccination, bad performance at the end. That episode with Irsay standing next to his plane, promising the fans things were going to change, that was the end of Wentz. Now, back to your Washington part. Crazy little thing in this world, not that he was full credit for this, but Wentz was 6-1 against Washington his last 7 games. So there are people, some of them weren't there, of course. There are people that think, yeah, he's pretty good talent. He's got 3 years on his deal, and it's relatively cheap. So they're taking a chance there. I probably wouldn't have done it. And I don't think the compensation was a big deal. I think I'm with you guys. I probably wouldn't have said, I'm going to put my eggs in that basket.
For now, anyway, it's used up most of their cap space. Like, I would have been a fan of maybe picking him up if he got released. And to me, they gave up one too many third-round picks for him for a guy that was going to be dealt. But, maybe that's just quibbling. If you need a quarterback, you need a quarterback. Pat, to me, the biggest thing is all the whispers from the last 2 teams he's been with. Now, some guys in Indianapolis actually spoke up for Wentz here in the last 2 days. But, Pat, there were a lot of people in Philadelphia, and there's a few in Indianapolis who are basically saying things like, not a leader, not the greatest guy to be around in the world, that, don't know if he could be the leader of your football team. That's a tough rap to eliminate when you're a quarterback. I mean, that ends your career years sooner. I mean, I'm not saying he's Jeff George, but you know what I'm getting at, Pat, here. You can't be the number 1 quarterback if guys don't like you and won't follow you.
I'm with you. And I think there's trying to modify his leadership skills is almost impossible. He is what he is. It's more natural than anything else. We hear of young guys that step in the huddle and the veterans like him already. Now, you got a guy that's coming with a reputation. You got a guy that people on the Washington football team there know a lot about him, or they think they know a lot about him. And I'm guaranteed some have already concluded, nope, he's not our guy. And so it's going to be hard for him to change that impression of him. And sometimes guys like him try too hard, if you know what I mean. Like the other day, he said, I'm just working out with my guys. Like, that was a guy making an attempt to be like the leader. And I don't think people buy it because they don't think he's got that in him. So I'm with you on that part of it. Skill-wise, he can throw the football. He can run around. He's athletic enough. But I think it's all the other stuff, the intangible stuff, that's going to be his demise. And well, I don't know if Ron's a pretty strong figure in front of his football team. Maybe Ron can sell him in, or maybe Ron can get him to do the right things. But I wouldn't want to take on that chance.
Pat, Marcus Mariota has never fulfilled his potential. Whether it's just been poor accuracy or getting injured, he's going to get a shot. I've got to think he's going to be a shot to be a starter this year. Where do you think that ends up?
I think a lot of people like Marcus. Look, the musical chair business we're in right now is going to leave someone voided at quarterback. If Cousins goes, maybe he goes to Minneapolis. So that's a possibility for him. I think he'd do fine up there. The first part of your thought, though, was the interesting part to me. Like, is his situation based on talent or is it based on injury? Again, there's a guy, him and Winston, like Jameis. If you could have used the exact same description of Jameis, except what happened to Jameis? He walked into Sean Payton's life, and maybe that's corrected a number of his issues. I'm not so sure it has, because he had good coaches before. In the case of Mariota, he's very coachable. The guys that like him, look, even his rookie season, they screwed the whole thing up. Kenny Wisenhunt's the head coach. They dumped Kenny out before the season ends. And basically the same thing then happens to Winston at the end of his first season when they say goodbye to Lovey. So you start putting these quarterbacks with a different system, a different coach for the first 3 or 4 years of his career, they land up like this, malfunctioning. but I do think that Mariota has enough skills to get back on track and be, I don't know if he's a Super Bowl quarterback, but he's a guy that can win games. So I think somewhere, you see what Minnesota does and what happens there. That'd be one place. I wonder if Seattle finds him interesting. You know, when you have GMs that are still at the place when the kid was drafted and they have their draft grades in their top desk drawer and they have an opinion of the guy and they want to blame bad coaching and injuries, sometimes they're the ones that are going to fight to get a guy like that.
Pat, final question for me. You mentioned Cousins, and you just threw out there if by chance the Vikings were to move on from him. You know, if you look at the quarterback situation in the NFC right now, he's a top 5 quarterback in the conference. So on, face value, you're like, why in the world would they get rid of him? If they're getting rid of him, and I'm curious your thoughts as to whether or not you think they will, but will it be because of him, or will it be because of, he's in the final year of a contract and he plays hardball and the Vikings are like, we're not giving him another 3-4 year deal. He's going to want to raise. Now we're talking close to $40 million. We're not going there. I mean, if they move on from him, are they moving on from him because of him, or is this a business decision?
I think it's a business decision. If you think about, they've always done these 3-year deals with him. But the last time they went back into the negotiating room, it was at the end of 2 years of a 3-year deal. And we just passed that number. So we're down to the last year, which tells me, I know his agent very well. He's a very good guy. He was in the NFL for a while. He understands football. His dad was a major coach at Colorado. So he gets it. But he's got a client that if you think his age or his signability is now in question, which was more important than his age. He's a pretty healthy guy. Then you're starting to reach the conclusion that someone like Seattle reached with Russell. He's in the last year of his deal for a guaranteed $35 million. We can't re-sign him. Maybe we don't really even want to re-sign him. Let's take what we can get and move on. And the thing about him that intrigues me about why it could happen is the fan base can't stand him.
I know.
Minnesota is not going to – they're going to have a parade if he gets moved.
And ironically, so will 2 of his receivers will be at the front of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've had my eye on him this whole time. Obviously, he wasn't going back to Washington. How ironic would that have been?
Right.
So, but there's going to be a place or two that's going to think, first off, you call up the Vikings. Is he tradable? Yeah. Okay, can we talk to his agent? Because we can't give you what you want unless we can get an extension with him. So I would think that has a chance of happening.
Well,
if you went to Cousins and told him, I'll go back to the first Steelers, and I don't think they'd do it. But if you presented a team like that to him, he might want to do it. He knows he's not a spring chicken anymore, and throw something at him that he'd say yes to, and then all of a sudden you're willing to give decent compensation. If he won't do that and you want to take a 1-year flyer on him, teams have done that before. Remember when Washington took McNabb? They took him on and they didn't have any intention to sign to an extension because they weren't sure he could play, but they wanted to take a look at him. So I think Cousins is the guy that if I was looking for a quarterback, I'd be calling Minnesota a lot more.
He's Pat Kirwan. Moving the Chains is the radio show. It's Afternoon Drive on NFL Radio. He co-hosts it with Jim Miller. He's kind enough to join us twice a week, courtesy of Pinchers. From Tampa to Key West, with a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, have a great weekend, and we'll talk again on Tuesday.
All right. Take care, Doc. Nice to meet you.
You too, Pat. Take care.
Pat Kirwan joining us on Miller and Moulton with Dr. Roto filling in here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
My source is pretty good.
Because his source when it comes to the Seahawks is really good, right?
Right, but my argument was
Right.
you've got to be in touch with players because players today are different than they were years ago.
There's
Years
no
ago, they'd
doubt.
shut up and play.
Right.
Now they don't,
Right.
and they get pissed off and they want to be out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like getting out of a relationship. And you think DK Metcalf, if he's going to get thrown the ball by Jordan Love, is going to be out there? He's going to get hamstring for 5 weeks. You're going to see him out there never.
Well, I think the guy they acquired is better than Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drew Lock doesn't suck, but he's a
Right.
backup.
Yeah, I think he's like a fringe starter. The problem is he throws the one interception a game that you don't.
In the fourth quarter with 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Locke is a guy that you can play twice a year or 3 times a year with an injury. Like he's not unplayable.
But like Drew Lock or Taylor Heineke.
Heineke all day.
Hmm.
Heineke makes plays. He runs. He's mobile.
I will say he's got the moxie that Locke doesn't have.
I think he's better than Wentz. I hate Wentz.
I will say this: in all the years I've been in the SEC, I've only seen 2 quarterbacks throw the ball better than Drew Lock. Drew Lock's.
I think
Drew Lock has made throws that it was like.
No,
whoa.
I agree. I don't think he's ever been coached up properly.
Yes.
Not in Denver. They didn't care.
No.
Big Fangio didn't know what he was doing. Right. I do have so I was on a grand jury. So so that's why with the indictment, I gotta, tell you about my grand jury stories. Because literally, I will show you how they can indict somebody in seconds.
Well, Cousins is not hard to move if he'll agree to a contract extension. I mean, listen, he is, he's a little too anal retentive and quirky for me. And I will say his teammates aren't particularly crazy about him.
It's not that Cousins is bad.
No.
It's his price.
Right. I mean, he's playing for money. And he's made that abundantly clear.
Right, but if I have to give him $40 million, I can't pay 3 other guys.
Right. Now, remember, the extension would kick in, next year. And I believe next year is the first year of the new network TV money coming in. So the cap, which is 208.2 now, is probably going to be 235 next year.
But do you want to give all that to
Cousins? You're not necessarily giving all of it. Like if you acquire Cousins now, you're fitting his 34 or 35 million into your cap. Well, in theory, it's only 5 more million for beginning the following year.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
So would you rather have all that money or Kirk Cousins? I'd rather have that money because I think I can go get Mariota on the cheap. I can get a couple of draft
Here's
picks.
A crazy question. For 1 year, if you're the Niners and you trade Jimmy G, okay, would you rent Cousins for a year if you really don't think Trey Lance is ready? Because you're ready to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
And you're it's a 1-year rental, Kirk Cousins, and then Trey Lance is the guy.
Yes. But I'd call Tom Brady first and say, hey, Tommy.
The problem is then the Bucs own his rights. And
But yes, I would get Cousins for 1 year. And Brian Greasy, I mean, look, Trey Lance is not ready. He doesn't throw well. He runs well, but he doesn't throw real well.
I think the Colts are going to get Jimmy G. I think they're taking those picks from Washington and they're going and they're getting Jimmy G. And I think they sign Jimmy G to an extension too, because they're tired of 5 quarterbacks in 5 years.
That's a good fit, actually.
But what they need to get is wide receivers. That's what they need to get.
They're going to draft wide receivers probably.
Well, I mean, they don't have a first and a third, right?
Right. But Jimmy G's steady. He'd be good in Reich's offense. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes.
The Colts have cash. The Colts have cap room. I think the Colts need to Allen Robinson, and they may even need to go and grab one of these tight ends too. The
36.
Colts need weapons.
Allen Robinson will be in demand
Yes.
because now that all these guys are getting franchised, he may be the best guy out there.
Well, but Amari Cooper is going to be available.
I would take Robinson over Cooper.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Ooh.
But the price-wise, though, you got to remember, Amari's going to hold out for
A lot.
18 range,
Right.
and you might be able to get Allen Robinson in the 13 to
Right.
14
I'll
range.
say
Here we
for
go.
$5 million.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
It is 21 minutes before the top of the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Mark off. He'll be back Monday. Dr. Roto filling in. Can't believe we got somebody willing to get up at this hour, come on in and do the show. He can't believe it
I'm up.
either, especially when he saw how much we're paying him. My goodness.
It was lint.
Big day today in Houston. The authorities there are going before a grand jury, and they're seeking an indictment on Deshaun Watson, despite this whole thing that has been around now for a year. He has not been charged with a crime. He has been accused of a crime. There are 22 civil suits against him, but the legal authorities have not charged him with a crime. This is D-Day. I mean, the DA's office said, basically, we're either going to get charges or we're not by April 1st. So here they go before a grand jury. And you were telling me during the break, you were on a grand jury?
I was on a grand jury. 28 days, my friend.
Really?
In the afternoon up in New York. So it's either the morning or the afternoon. So I was the 2 to 5, grand jury. And you get there and there's a lot of people in that room. There's comfy seats.
How many? 20, 30, 40?
30 to 40.
Okay.
And so the first day I'm really into it. I'm like, oh, I am
You're
going
dressed
to be
well, you're showered, the whole deal.
I'm as showered and dressed as I get, me in a baseball cap and t-shirt.
Right. Everything's relative.
Right. But I'm sitting there going, I'm going to be part of justice. I am really going to take this seriously. By day 3, I kid you not, I was literally snoring in my seat. The lady next to me knocked me in my shoulder and said, "Raise your hand," which I did to indict. Then I went back to sleep after and moved on. That's how easy it is to indict when a guy like me was literally sleeping in a seat, waking up and voting yes.
All right.
Because I was like, you know what? Let the jury decide.
I have so many questions.
Okay, I'm here.
So in a given 3-hour session,
Yes.
how many indictments were you pondering?
So what happens is they come in and you never see the defense. You only see the prosecutor, because if the defense comes in, they could use what's said there, or they could question
Right.
there. So no defendant's ever in there. So basically,
I've learned this from Law and Order. Basically,
Right.
they take the fifth.
it's totally stacked.
Right.
They come in there and then all you're deciding is there enough evidence to hold them over for a trial? That's all you're deciding.
Okay. How much evidence does that have to be? Is it 51%? Is it?
Trust me when I tell you, when you're done with these prosecutors, it's 98%. I mean, they've got a cop. The cop was in a watchtower with binoculars, taking pictures. All they don't have is the guy there.
But you know what I mean. What is the percentage of evidence threshold needed to meet?
Oh,
because in a civil suit, it's only 51%.
right. They don't tell you that, but it's the old, is there enough to hold them over for trial?
Preponderance
yeah,
type deal?
so you really feel like if it's like 50, 60%, you're going to hold them over.
Okay.
So there was nobody that didn't get indicted. Literally in a month, there was nobody that I saw. Maybe one. I take that back. Maybe one didn't get indicted.
So how many a day? Like 2, 3, 5?
No, I would say some days were 2 or 3. Some days we were like literally playing cards in the corner. And then some days they were like 5 or 6. And then if they knew they didn't have anybody, they let us go early.
And you did a month?
I did 28 days. And you know what? I made great friends. You're hanging out with these people every day. Actually, a girl I went to high school with, her mother was on the grand jury with me. How weird is that?
That is weird.
Yeah.
Do you know when you showed up for day 1 that you were going to do 28 days, or do they just keep asking you and go, hey?
No, you're doing 28 days, and you would think that you wouldn't want to do this.
Right.
But I, the idiot that I am, thought this would be interesting to see what it's like to be on a grand jury. And for the first like I said, 2 days was interesting until they're all the same after that.
I would love to be on a grand jury.
I was on a real jury too, by the way.
How are you able to get on a jury? I have desperately wanted to be on a jury, and one time I made it through, because once they find out you're a member of the media,
you're out.
One side or the other
back then.
This
was when I was a young roto,
gotcha,
a young doc, just out of med school, if you will.
Right.
And they basically, I answered every question in a way that made me the ideal juror that you would want me.
Because I finally make it on a jury, and they're about to seat us, and I am beyond excited.
Right.
All right. And I'm not trying to be the foreman or anything like that. I am just like, oh, this is great. I've always wanted to be on the jury. I've watched all 200 and whatever episodes of Law and Order. This is fantastic. And they walk in, and the judge is like, we're ready to go. And they're literally saying, in 5 minutes, we're going to walk you through and we're going to seat you. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And somebody walks in and goes, struck a plea deal.
I know that happened on mine.
You're free to leave. I literally said, no.
I saw a trial. We saw like 5 days of a trial. We almost went to final closing arguments, and they settled. And the lady got like 6 figures. Trust me when I tell you, we would have given her like $2. So she did the right thing by settling. We were like, this lady was like, slip and fall. Come on, lady.
In our Twitch chat room, Jake says, my father did a federal grand jury every Friday for 18 months. There you go. And yes, DC, we have said all day, the famous saying for a grand jury is that you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, we'll find out. Deshaun Watson is the ham. And the authorities in Houston are going to try to get some kind of indictment. And in all seriousness, though, you have to think this is a very significant development either way in his immediate future. And if he's tradable, and where.
Look, I don't think he gets criminal charges. I think he does get a civil suit, and he loses a civil suit. I think there is a preponderance of the evidence. Do I think that he's guilty beyond reasonable doubt? I can't answer that, but I do think that he would lose a civil suit. So now the question is, will the NFL figure out to, take games, suspend him if he loses this civil suit, which I think will happen? Because you know how he's going to lose a civil suit? He's going to settle.
Well, he's tried to settle. The word is 22 civil suits. 20 were willing to settle. Now it's settling under his terms, which is you can't talk.
Right. Of course.
2 were like, no.
Right.
Absolutely not. You're not muzzling me.
Right.
If I want to write a book, if I want to go on 2020, whatever.
I want a deal.
Exactly.
Right. Us Weekly is.
You don't get to tell me.
Right.
And so he, through his attorney, were not willing to go along with that. So that's why and one attorney at firm is representing all 22.
Right. Well, that's a class action. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at.
Rusty Hardin's no dope. It's a good lawyer.
He's
very good.
Acclaimed lawyer, represented Roger Clemens back in the day.
Right. So look, when one person comes forward, you don't, it's a he said, she said.
Sure.
When it's 2, you're like, okay.
Right. When it's 22.
When it's 22. I mean, because I watched that Bill Cosby thing on Showtime. I don't know if you saw that. We should be talking about Cosby. OMG. Right. There wasn't 22. There was 222. Right. When all these people are coming forward, when there's smoke, there's fire. And here I just don't know whether I could bring in, and I love Watson's ability, but that's got to be a public relations nightmare.
Well, the question is, though, for how long?
Right.
All right.
If
I'm the owner,
right.
Okay. Never mind the fact that I'm on record as saying I would not bring in people who have done harmful things to women and children. Right. So Deshaun Watson would not be on my team.
Correct.
But if you're the GM and I'm the owner, and we're talking this through, and you want to do it, I would say, well, okay, I'm willing to go along, but you need to realize the NFL is going to suspend him. All right, probably 6 games. Maybe it's appealed down to 4, or whatever. They could suspend him.
I would assume 8. I would assume half a season.
8 games, and we get it knocked down to 6. So that's the first thing you need to realize. If you acquire him, he ain't going to be available much before November 1st.
Right.
All right. So he's got 4 years left on a contract at $39 million a year. The first year is going to be close to a wash.
Right.
All right. I don't know how much we're going to get out of him year one. You need to realize this. Then it's like, okay, what market are we in? Is this a market in which we are going to get absolutely crushed and we're going to lose 3,200 season ticket holders within 48 hours? Like, there are certain markets. I don't believe that would be the case with the Buccaneers.
But let me ask you this. If they start winning, do those 3,200 people come back and now it's 4,200 because you have a product on the field that people want to see?
Well, I mean, that's a decision that I think, I would make as to whether or not I think I'd get them back, or would they just be, hey, you guys are dead to us. I mean, there are Cowboys fans who have been done with the Cowboys since they fired Tom Landry. And it's obviously it's not the same deal,
Right.
but they even say, no, I didn't come back when we won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. They fired Tom Landry, the way they treated him, I'm done. And there have been instances, which, let's face it, the Buccaneer fan didn't come back when they left because of the Glazers.
Right.
10 or so years ago. They did not, they had a 10-6 season. They had a 9-7 season. All right. The Buccaneer fan didn't come back, even though they were quote unquote winning. They came back because of Brady. Period.
We have an amazing ability to rebound as people and to move on. So do I think that the first season with Deshaun is a wash? Yes. Do I think maybe another season is a public relations nightmare? Yes. Do I think the last 2 seasons we forgive and forget? Maybe. And we move on. Look at Ben Roethlisberger. Would you let your daughter? But would you let your daughter in a room with Ben Roethlisberger?
No.
The old Ben, not the new Ben with a wife and kids, but the old Ben?
Right. I wrote a column when the authorities in Georgia were pondering charges, in which I said, if they charge him, he'll be released. And I'm not saying that he will be convicted, okay, because the odds are he will not. All right. But I am telling you, if the authorities in a he said, she said case go forward with indicting him and charging him, I am telling you the Steelers will release him and he is going to have a hard time finding a job for a while. And I got a lot of hate mail for saying that. All right. To me, it's the same thing here with Deshaun. If he gets indicted today or very early next week, if you're a team, he's much harder to acquire. He just is.
Much.
There's going to be a jury and a court case, and it's going to linger into the season. And never mind the fact if he doesn't play this year. Now, I know he's still young, but he hasn't played in 2 years. All right. And this is going to be lingering out there for a while. If it's, even though nothing has changed about the facts and the circumstances, if it's just a civil suit, money, he can make it on the field much faster.
Oh, yeah. That's what I said to you. The minute it's a criminal thing,
right?
He is done. Honestly, he's done. But a civil suit, I think he can come back from that.
And I think the team can move forward. 18, and I'll say it again. If you're running an NFC team right now, you have got to be just every day going, can we pull the trigger on this Watson thing, or are we all going to lose our jobs and we're going to lose a third of our season ticket base? Because if we get Deshaun Watson, he's immediately the second best quarterback in the conference, and he's 27 years old. Right. And the guys who are 1-3 are age 38 and 34.
I couldn't agree with you more. So it's a gamble that you have to sit there and say, look, does David Tepper do this gamble? Yeah, he's a rich dude and his team stinks. You gambled on Sam Darnold. You got a coach who everybody despises, by the way. Right. Let's just call it. I don't know how Matt Rule has a job.
Well,
those guys hate him
because he has a 7-year contract. That's why.
Right. But he's lost the team. I mean, I've got insider information that will tell you that the team can't stand that guy. When you're trying to get rid of Christian McCaffrey, it's never a good sign.
No, it's not. It's CYA time. There's no doubt about it. But I think, gentlemen mentioned DC in our Twitch chat room, mentioned Kobe Bryant in Colorado. Right. No charges. Ben Roethlisberger, Georgia, no charges.
Right.
Able to recover from that PR-wise and otherwise. That's why I think today is a really big day in the future of Deshaun Watson and in the future of some team, but also for the Texans. I mean, they want to be able to trade him. He counts against their cap.
Couldn't they have traded him last year?
Well,
they should have. They may end up getting nothing. What if he is indicted and now they get nothing? They weren't getting lowballed last year.
No, I don't think they were.
Just saying, I think it was a gamble.
They held on to him because he was only 10 or so million a year against the cap, and they could eat that. This year it's 39.
Right. I don't know whether they thought that through. I think I really would have made that deal, whether it was Miami or whoever you believed was actually offering something up here.
So something worth paying attention to, whether it goes down today or whether or not it ends up happening sometime next week. Miller and Moulton. For those in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice, thanks so much for listening. The bonus hour is coming up. Say goodbye to those good audiences, Doctor.
Appreciate you listening, and hope to see you again soon.
And your website again?
drroto.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at DRROTO.
What's that offer?
$50 for the year for all of the season-only fantasy baseball and football.
That's ridiculous. I don't know how you're going to be in business with that. All right.
I need a lot of people.
Hope your website doesn't crash. drroto.com. Final hour coming up. David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled, marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today. Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Be in Daytona, I think, by the end of the month. So that'll be 5 stations. And then we've got our website together. Just about got our shit together where I feel comfortable in going before stations and saying, okay, this is who we are. We look good on, because if you're a station manager and, we say, hey, carry us, you're going to go on a website, you're going to download the show and listen. So, we finally have our infrastructure in place where we don't come off like, we're a joke. So
who's Karl Smesko or whatever that guy is at 920?
women's basketball coach at FGCU.
Oh.
They're in the conference final Saturday. They've been eligible for 11 years. This is their 11th trip to the finals.
Oh, wow.
So
That's awesome.
just do 5-7 minutes.
Okay.
They're nationally ranked. They're 20th in the country
I
in the
saw that.
coaches poll, 23rd in the AP.
That's really great.
Yeah. They have a player on the team who's going to get drafted in the WNBA, probably second round.
Well, Destiny Henderson's going to get drafted.
Yeah, I know. I don't agree the early, some people had her in the first round. She's little. I have a hard time
quick.
seeing her in the first round. She is.
She's quick.
She
She should be able to play. She'll
classic
play.
point guard, but she's small.
Yeah, I know she's small. Was she like 5'7"?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
You know,
Yeah, but if you can play at South Carolina, you can play anywhere.
I understand, but I just don't know. You know what's weird about WNBA is it's a 3-round draft, and second and third rounders often don't make the team.
You don't think she would make a team?
Well,
she has to get drafted by the
it'll
right
be
team.
hard. Like Whitney Knight was drafted 13th overall, who played at FGCU. She was drafted by the LA Sparks. They kept her on the roster for like half a season and dumped her.
Oh.
I mean,
Does Tom Crean get a Dunk City call?
I don't think so.
Who do you think they go to?
Because I don't think Crean is in Ken's universe.
Who's in Ken's universe?
Well, a lot of guys, but I do think it will be someone like him, though, in terms of not necessarily that
A
big
name.
but I do think when he hires somebody, it will be somebody who's been a head coach before and has had decent success. I don't know if it'll be like, I don't know if he can get somebody who can sell him tickets, because you got to pay for that and they don't have money. So I think they're going to get somebody who
give me a name.
Looking to get back in. I'll give you a name when we're not on.
Okay. You think you have a name that you think is nameable?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Klecko, that's just what Dr. Roto asked. The one thing I will say about Crean is that he's clean. Okay, and it's very important to be clean to Ken.
Is Crean clean?
Crean is clean.
Crean is clean.
So, I mean, I would call him. I thought he did a pretty good job at IU. I mean, took him to the Sweet 16, drafted a couple of NBA players.
Don't you notice that college coaches do well one place, then they go to another place, don't do as well, and then all of a sudden they stink?
Well,
they don't stink.
Well, here's the deal with Georgia.
10 seconds.
I mean, Georgia apparently has no relationship with the whole Atlanta AAU community. I mean, they just need a coach.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you, the bonus hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Mark off again today. He'll be back on Monday. Dr. Roto, the last doctor in the Western Hemisphere that makes house calls, kind enough to make a call to us on this Friday. How you doing? Is this somewhat enjoyable? Is this all right?
It's very I didn't enjoy waking up this morning, but I enjoy being with you. I'm not really a morning person, even though I've done morning radio for a long time, but I'm very happy to be here with you.
I'm not a morning person either. All right. Still at 4:24 a.m. every day. Or sometimes I do the whole starting 5 thing. And today was the day when I actually do it when I get up, and it takes about an hour. So like this morning, I set my alarm 3:13 a.m.
Are you kidding me?
No.
How hot would this show be at 11 a.m.? If I could sleep till 9:30, come here, I'd give you my best. I give you my best, Dave.
I understand. Listen, I'll take your 6.5 on a scale of 1 to 10. I really will. We just spent the last hour, if that's when you joined us, and it was a football-dominated hour. Obviously, a big story in the last 24 hours is, hey, turns out they salvaged the baseball season. They're going to salvage the next 5. As it turns out, baseball will be back, albeit a week late. For those in the 239, there will be spring training probably beginning a week from today. I heard the 17th is a possibility,
18th.
but probably a week from today, the 18th. And if you do the math, you're probably looking at a good 2.5 weeks worth of games. So maybe both the Twins and the Red Sox and the Rays and the Braves, maybe they each get in around 10 home spring training games. If you got 17 to 18 possible days to do spring training, 19 days maybe at most, maybe you can go 11.
Did you get a lot of split squad games?
Well,
tons of split squad.
I know I would want to.
Right.
So maybe you could get a touch more.
Look, I love spring training. I like spring training more than almost anything now. Now that I've been down here for 20 years, I love going out there. I love going to JetBlue. It's a nice time. Everybody's
Well, and
happy.
you can get up at 11 and go,
I
too.
can.
It fits perfectly.
I can probably walk there. And, the people are nice. But look, spring training is a great time of year. It really is. And I think David Sampson said in that a couple hours ago, the pitchers don't need to ramp up to 7 innings anymore because no pitcher throws 7 innings anymore. If these guys can throw 5 innings in the next, in those 2 weeks, baseball can start, no problem.
Do you know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for the owner who says to his general manager and his manager, do you know how much money I'm paying those guys? Yeah, I don't care what your analytics say. Send him out there for another inning. If he's getting guys out, all right. I mean, 100 pitches, really? He can't throw 110?
You're completely wrong, by the way. You couldn't be more wrong.
I'm
going to tell you why you're wrong.
I'm just telling you, if I'm writing
No.
the checks, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, really? We need a 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guy today? We can't have him pitch the 7th also?
When Greg Maddux pitched, how hard did he throw? 89 to 91?
Well, he actually started the very early days with the Cubs. He was a
93.
93 to 95 guy when he needed it.
But,
Yeah.
right, when he needed it. But for
Yeah,
the most part,
No,
would you
his
say he's a 90 to 91?
Hall of Famer Greg Maddux was a 90-91
Right.
guy, right?
Nowadays, if you don't throw at 95, they don't look at you. One of my close friends is a former Cincinnati Red who threw at 90 or 91. It wasn't fast enough. He played like a couple of times. He played a little bit in the league, got hurt a couple of times. So that's why he's not in the league anymore. But 90, 91 is not enough. So the problem is when these guys throw that hard because they need to hear the catcher's mitt pop, how many pitches can you throw like that?
Okay, and that's a fair enough point. I will say, though, that is another part where, once again, if I'm writing the checks, I would go, you do know what the most important pitch in baseball is.
The ephus.
It's strike one.
Oh.
All right. Throwing strikes is still the most important thing because remember, if you fail 7 out of 10 times long enough, you go to the Hall of Fame. It is really hard to hit a baseball. It's even hard to hit strikes.
Right.
And there's an example, Richard Blyer, who happened to pitch at FGCU. He's a soft tossing lefty. Those things still exist.
Right.
Richard Blyer is having a really nice major league career. Richard Blyer is one of those pitchers in which they said back in the day, he can't break an egg.
But you never hear a soft tossing righty.
No,
you never do. You hear soft tossing lefty because they have angles, but you never hear of a soft tossing righty.
But what does Richard Blyer do? And he, by the way, he's used to get both lefties and righties out and has been for the last 3 years in relief. And maybe it is the advantage of, hey, if your kid is left-handed, make sure you put a baseball in their hand.
Right.
But I'm telling you, it is part of the game that I think they also have wrong. All right. Being able to throw in the low 90s, God forbid that's your peak. If you can throw strikes, if you know how to pitch, because also and it's tough for me to mention the Scherzers and the Kershaws because they're Hall of Famers. But when you're a starter, you know in this third time through the lineup in the 6th and the 7th that you don't have the stuff that you had early on, yet you can still get guys out. You know how to.
But let me I'm going to describe you now why baseball can be very frustrating. Are you ready? Here we go. First pitch, strike, 0-1. Second pitch, strike, 0-2. Now they nibble. Now it's 1-2. Now they miss a little bit outside. It's 2-2. Now they foul off about 6 pitches.
I understand.
Now they wait a second, I didn't get done yet. Now it's 3-2. Now he fouls off another 4 pitches. The guy had a 16 pitch at bat.
Come on now, that's not the normal at bat.
It's not far from it
yes,
sometimes.
It is. Come on,
you don't see 3 pitch at bats anymore.
Well, I understand.
It's not Goose Gossage coming in for 3 pitches.
But the average at bats around 5 pitches.
No way. Are you?
It
What was
is.
the last baseball game you watched?
I watch a lot of baseball,
dude. It's more than 5. It's got to be at
average
least
at
10.
bat is 5 pitches.
I'm telling you that pitchers nibble.
No, there's no
and
doubt
they
that
just
they do.
don't throw a guy. I want a 5 pitch at bat. You give me that. That's fun.
Okay. Because if you think about it, also an average, five. So if you're a starter and you face 20, 21 guys, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get all of them out.
Done.
And once again, where are you? You're at 5 1/3, 5 2/3.
Right.
So I'm telling you, the average at bats around 5 pitches. It really is. Maddox, by the way, spoke about this recently and said the whole 0-2 waste pitch he thinks is the dumbest
I do
thing
too.
ever created. He said you'd never have a hitter more vulnerable than an 0-2. You go right at him.
I couldn't agree more.
And-
you never see pitchers do that.
And he said that it's the whole thing about, oh, God forbid you give up a hit at 0-2 and what have you. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. All right. I got a 100+% or batting average better chance to get him out at 0-2 than I do.
Could not agree more.
And so he goes, I never wasted a pitch. He goes, ever. He said, and I did pretty well. So baseball's back. The fundamental changes to the game are not going to take place in earnest, Doc, until next year. The one fundamental change that is going to take place is universal DH begins immediately.
Right.
In theory, we have seen our last pitcher hit. And there are a few good hitting pitchers, not counting Ohtani, obviously.
Right.
But we have seen our last pitcher hit.
Mm-hmm.
That strategy and or that dynamic to the game is gone. A good thing or bad thing?
Well, also fantasy-wise, in fantasy baseball, you wanted to have NL pitchers. Why? Because they only threw to 8 batters and they had the pitcher. Now, NL AL guys are all going to have ERAs see a spike, right? You're not going to see a 2.9 ERA in the National League and a 3.8 in the American League. Now you're going to see guys with 3.5, 3.6s across the board. I like the DH. I do. I miss the strategy of is the pitcher hitting, but I mean, it was an easy out. It was boring. Now at least you're trying to add some more runs to the game. I think that's helpful. But getting back to your other point, didn't they just delay a lot of things? Like, oh, we'll talk about them later. Oh, we'll talk about them soon. Let's do a deal now and we'll talk about it later.
Well, what I'm led to believe is they've reached pretty much consensus on they're going to make the bases bigger, which I still don't understand the allure of that. Apparently it's to help prevent injuries, that there's enough room for the first baseman's foot to be on it, and still enough room for the base runner to, maybe the bases being bigger, it'll help guys steal a base more. It's a few less inches of ground they have to cover and all that. The middle infielder with the, although they don't really do the neighborhood play anymore because they're tight and calling it. So bigger bases, a pitch clock that it could go in this year. I mean, Rob Manfred made sure he got in the deal. We can make a rule change with 45 days notice. But Manfred has said repeatedly for years, I really don't want to make fundamental change to the game without the players being on board.
Do you watch tennis?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the clock has helped make tennis faster?
Yeah, when they enforce it.
Right, exactly. They don't always enforce it.
Not for Nadal.
Right, exactly.
Right, and a few others.
Right. So you enforce it for some random dude that you've never heard of, but you don't for other guys.
Right. Now, what I would do, and they did this, and I know I've referenced this before, but in an independent league in the mid-90s, the Northern League, they had a pitch clock. Well, the pitch clock was like the shot clock in basketball. When it expired, a sound was made. I mean, there was no interpretation like in the NFL as to whether or not they got the snap off in time.
Oh, my God, yeah.
All right. You knew, wow, either the hitter's not ready, the pitcher's not ready, and the umpire has to make a decision here. He's either calling a strike on the hitter or he's calling a ball on the pitcher. And that's what I think is needed in baseball. I mean, no ambiguity. And there's no sense yelling at the umpire. I mean, the clock's right there. It's got a buzzer.
A buzzer go off in the middle of a baseball game?
I do.
Really?
Yeah. I do.
That sounds like a great time.
I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, Daddy, why is there a buzzer going off? Because the pitcher didn't pitch it fast enough?
Why are you okay with it going off in a basketball game, but it bothers you so much in a baseball game? I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, because I guess I'm used to it. I don't want to create this now, but I guess it's always been that way. The problem that I see is if you don't make something that obvious, dare I say obnoxious, I don't think that the umpires and everybody, it'll get to 0. The umpire will see it, and then we'll look at the pitcher, and he'll give the veteran pitcher a few extra seconds.
So I can fix this problem. You start it in youth baseball. You do it in college baseball. You create a clock everywhere. So that way kids are conditioned to throw it.
They've done it in the minors.
Right. So you condition
Right.
people. So as they go up
Right.
from the time that they start playing down in a stero when they're 8 years old, they know to get it out in 30 seconds.
And Doc, one thing we've talked about in the show previously is the changes that we want to implement in baseball like this. Are they enough where the baseball fan is just going to stop watching entirely? They'll be annoyed by it, but they'll get used to it.
So, Felipe, it's a great point. So here's the problem. Baseball people are purists, right? Don't mess with our game.
Exactly.
But we don't live in a pure world anymore.
Exactly.
So it's that balance. The problem is the purists are getting old.
Well, the other thing is, do you know how much change has been brought to Major League Baseball in the last 25 years? I mean, you got to remember, 25 years ago, we didn't have a wild card. I mean, 94 was supposed to be the first year of the wild card with the strike. So the first time we ever had a wild card team was in 95. Instant replay. I mean, there's been a ton of change, if you will, to Major League Baseball in the last quarter century. The whole purist thing, I think, is a little baseball's as much, believe it or not, forward thinking as the other major sports in terms of making changes to their game. They don't get credit for it. Something that was pointed out, quick sidebar, during this whole lockout. You know how negative the media coverage was towards Major League Baseball and the owners and the players during the lockout?
Horrible.
Right. Take a look at all the other major sports. They got issues. Football, basketball, hockey, any other major sport. There's no group of media more negative than Major League Baseball media.
How about, because I know, and I'm sure you know a few too, the Hall of Fame ballots in baseball.
Right.
The hardest sport to get in the Hall of Fame is baseball. Meanwhile, football every year gets a bunch of guys. Basketball, tennis, you name the sport. Baseball, they'll let one dude in.
Maybe.
Right. Oh, you got 68%. Sorry. Bye.
The most negative media. It's funny that Major League Baseball embraces their media brethren as much as they do, because they are far and away the most negative.
Look, I'm in the fantasy world. The difference between a fantasy baseball person and a fantasy football person is a completely different demographic. Completely.
Really?
Couldn't even be, I mean, you wouldn't even recognize it too.
Oh, I agree with him. So many young people play fantasy football.
Yeah.
No young people play fantasy baseball.
And a fantasy baseball is, I'm not saying football isn't, a lot of white collar guys, a lot of guys fighting about the rules, a lot of guys looking for loopholes. Football is, let's just draft, make trades. It's more loose. It's more fun. Fantasy baseball guys suck. Trust me. And I've been in leagues with them. They suck. They suck the fun out of the league. I had to quit 3 fantasy baseball leagues. That's how bad they were.
Canada Relief in our Twitch chat room says it proves that we hold Major League Baseball to high standards. Well, either that or you're just grumpy, get off my lawn guy. It's one or the other.
It's America's game.
Well, it used to be.
Well, so I say this, and I think Adam has something right here. Adam says they need to reduce the amount of innings. I think baseball could end on Labor Day. I think September 1st call-ups make it. Why are you competing with football? Why are you competing? Put your playoffs on in September and people might watch. By the time baseball finishes, people are knee-deep into football, which they love more anyway.
Well, September's knee-deep in football too, though.
I know.
I don't think there's any way around the 800-pound gorilla anymore. I do think at some point you just have to say, this is who we are. This is our sport. We really hope we can get your attention.
And not just football, but the start of the NBA season as well.
Remember that.
I think the NBA honestly doesn't get really going until Christmas. I mean, it's there, but
I agree with that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, it's Christmas. It's the Lakers playing the Celtics. I'm watching that game, right?
Right.
Like give out your presents in the morning, then all of a sudden you're watching that. So I don't know. I think it is football, and it's college football too.
Right.
Right.
But if you're baseball, you can't wrap things up before Labor Day is what I'm saying. Your season is, you are what you are. America has changed. You're not the national pastime anymore.
Right.
All right. We have less of an attention span. And quite frankly, your sport does not lead itself well to the changes in our society. And now the overwhelming popularity of football on the weekends.
Can I tell you where baseball may be able to shine?
All right. Quickly.
Oh, sorry. So, you want to take a break?
No, we got a guest on the other side.
All right. It's the 8th inning. and you can now bet on who's going to hit a home run, right? The Royals are playing the Rangers. And do I want to bet on whether or not Marcus Semien at plus 150 is going to hit a home run? Maybe that saves baseball. In-game gambling.
Yeah, and it'll help. It'll help. I mean, you'll have 20 seconds in between pitches. It's kind of like golf.
Right.
You've got time in between shots. Live betting on golf could be a boon for the PGA Tour.
Yes.
Same with baseball. It'll be interesting, though. Can they do it actually in between pitches? That's only seconds.
Right.
All right. Versus doing it during commercial breaks, which is 2.5 minutes. But yeah.
I think setting the lines, I think golf would be great like that. If you knew at the next hole, this guy, you're betting on a birdie.
You know what the big problem in golf is, though, and we do have to take a break, is so much of golf, and the viewer doesn't realize this, is not live.
I know.
And it's the one thing, and I know everybody says that Fox's golf coverage sucked, whatever. Okay, 98% of what Fox showed you was live. 70% of what you see from CBS and NBC is not live. Now, it may have only happened 30 to 60 seconds ago.
So I watch the Golf Channel.
But it's not live. And you cannot run a sport with live betting if what is seen on TV is not live, because someone somewhere working in a control room is going to be texting out tips to people who are going to be placing bets, and it only has to happen once. And that's the problem with golf. The networks will have to change how they cover the sport. And I think, though, that there's enough money in it that the PGA Tour will sit down with their media partners and say, boys, we got to do this differently.
The Golf Channel does.
Yes.
Golf Channel's live.
Yes. They show a lot more. The funny thing is the same people producing and directing that golf for the Golf Channel are then produced or they show CBS.
Yeah, same thing.
But the funny thing is they're showing it live on the Golf Channel and they're showing it live on tape when they go to the network.
Know. Silly.
Miller and Moulton. With Dr. Roto filling in for Mark, who will be back on Monday. Thanks for listening to Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Did that, like, do guaranteed picks for a couple of weeks and see how you did, or gotcha, right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I prefer National League Baseball logic, man. I do. I prefer the strategy of it. But, I mean, the MLBPA was never going to give up. I mean, DHs are usually paid pretty well, if not very well. And there's no way the Players Association was going to give up 15 high-paying jobs. The other, not just the strategy, but because pitchers oftentimes can't put the ball in play, which I understand is not exciting, but it does make the bottom of the order move faster. in the National League? I mean, National League games are traditionally a few minutes shorter than the American League. I can't believe it took Major League Baseball 50 years, though, to make the DH universal. I mean, Felipe, you're a big NBA guy. Can you imagine 50 years, the Eastern Conference, you don't have the 3-point line, but in the Western Conference games, you do? I mean, the difference between the DH and not having the DH, to me, I can't believe that yeah, you know where it is? Okay.
You've been talking about that for years.
No, Nick, Gators are NIT bound. I mean, 19 and 13? No. They had to win and beat Auburn.
What does your program gain by winning the NIT?
It depends. I mean, if you're Florida or whatever, I don't think. The only thing I think you gain if you're a big power conference school is if you have a really young team, and it will help you as a springboard into the next year. But no.
How about Texas losing?
I have more faith in the basketball coach than the football coach, though. The Gators will make the NIT. The question becomes, do they want to play in the NIT? Right. Bourbon's right. Like Liberty just told the NIT they have no interest.
No way.
Yeah. Men's basketball. I mean, listen, some kids want to keep playing. I mean, for some, if you're a senior, do you want your career to be over? Do you want to play?
We're not playing in that, right?
FGCU is playing in the what used to be called the CIT. Yeah. The players wanted to play. The AD wanted them to play.
So more Tavion.
Yes, it was Yinzer. Well, if they do, they're probably in, JS. It's probably a play-in game for the Hokies. But the way UNC's played the last two games, you're catching them at the wrong time. I'll say that.
Ooh, I got the doo-doo-doo tone, so I'm going to call him back.
Well, it's funny. He was trying to call in and said that he couldn't get through. So I texted him 5 minutes ago and said, we're going to call you in 5 minutes on your cell.
Okay. We're back in 5. Let's go.
Oh.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Rapidly approaching 27 minutes past the hour. Welcome back, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network. Mark off again. He'll be back Monday. Remember, guests should be over by that, weather permitting. Dr. Roto, drroto.com, kind enough to fill in. We were talking quickly during the break that, the Players is probably going to be a mess this weekend.
It's sad. It's one of my favorite tournaments, but between the rain, the wind, the fire, whatever it is, it's going to be brutal.
Well, they only got maybe half the field in yesterday. Today and tomorrow, weather's supposed to be bad. A lot of rain, and it gets worse, not better, as the 48 hours go. And then Sunday is supposed to be complete sunshine, but like 52 and windy as heck.
Kind of like a British tournament.
Very much.
Yeah.
Right.
The Irish Open. Scottish Open.
It's got a Monday finish written all over it, though, doesn't it?
Can they get 2 rounds in before Sunday?
I don't know if they'll even have the cut before Sunday.
Right.
If the rain is as consistently bad as they are forecasting for today and tomorrow, I'm not sure that we have the cut before Sunday morning.
Is it going to rain here tomorrow? It's like a 90% chance of rain down here.
I believe so, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, temps around 70, 72. People
Brutal.
are going to be losing. Exactly.
Brutal.
folks are going to be losing their mind. You know what would be nice to do tomorrow night? Go see a college basketball game. FGCU women, nationally ranked, playing for another ASUN championship. Their head coach, Karl Smesko, is kind enough to join us. Coach, it's David and the Doc. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, we are doing fine. Listen, 11 years you've been eligible for this thing. This year, 11th ASUN final. What are you doing wrong?
Well, it definitely has been, a great 11 years, always getting to the championship final. And we got some good competition this year for a championship game, and we're really hoping Alico will be packed for it.
I'm sure it will, Coach. But tell me, when you look at it, what can you do to win this one tonight?
Well, to win, we have to take care of some things in a sense that Jacksonville State, they have a large offensive rebounding margin advantage over opponents, and they have a large turnover advantage over opponents. So we can't let them win that many extra possessions. And then we got to make sure that when we're on the offensive end, that we actually work to take a high quality shot and not settle for difficult shots early in the clock.
You've had a WNBA player before in Whitney Knight, but when Kirsten Bell transferred in almost 2 years ago, she certainly had WNBA talent. She has said that she is going to forego her final year of eligibility and declare for the draft. Do you coach a player who's that talented any differently, or do you coach everyone the same?
Well, I think no matter what their talent level, you coach each individual, and you develop a relationship with each individual, and your job is to try and help each player become the best player they can be and develop their games. And because each individual is unique, I think you need to approach it that way when you're dealing with players. And so that's always, or at least what we've developed over the years, is trying to make good connections with our players and trying to get them to see the big picture of teamwork and playing to their strengths, and how to grow their game effectively. And that's kind of how we go about it.
Coach, when you're in a big game like this tomorrow, do you tighten your rotation even more?
It all depends on the game. Now, Jacksonville State really plays at a high tempo, and they are legitimately 10 to 11 deep, and they'll play 10 to 11. So you have to kind of gauge what's going on the floor with foul trouble, or just if people need a break. Some people may need to get in for 2 or 3 minutes and give us a good 2 or 3 minutes. Like the last game, Andrea Cecil came in and gave us, 3 fantastic minutes that made a big difference in the game. And so we need our players to be ready for those situations.
Karl Smesko, women's basketball coach at FGCU. He's the only one they've ever had, going for their 8th ASUN tournament championship tomorrow night at Alico Arena. They are taking on Jacksonville State. You've been ranked before, but you've never been ranked this long. This team's been ranked since early to mid January. You've been the team in the conference, but when you're a nationally ranked team in the conference, have you and your team, you think, felt the bullseye more this year than in past years?
Well, I, as you said, I think we've had to face that pressure a number of times in a number of years, where you go into the season as a favorite, and then you go into the tournament as a favorite. And then if you're either, undefeated in conference or nationally ranked, it just adds another layer of motivation for players. But, for this game, it's a championship game. I can't imagine anybody could be more motivated.
I know you never want to think about this, but if you lose, you'd have to get an at-large bid. No FGCU team has ever received an at-large bid in any sport. I'm of the belief that you're in the tournament no matter the result tomorrow night. The number one bracketologist in women's basketball said you guys are in the tournament before the ASUN tournament even started. But when you got denied 6 years ago, I'm curious, do you think that you're in the tournament no matter the result tomorrow?
Well, that's a good question. First, I think we deserve to be in the tournament regardless of the outcome. I think we've, over the course of a season, proved the quality of our team, and the outcome of one game shouldn't change the fact that we would be securely in. Now, I don't get to seed people or put people. They have a committee that does that. I know you said, Charlie Cream has us in the tournament as of now as a pretty decent seed. But was it 6 years ago you said?
Yep.
Like he got 63 out of 64 teams right. He had us in the tournament. We were the one team he had wrong, and we didn't get invited. So the only way to guarantee a spot is to win. And we don't want to leave it up to any committee or anybody else to decide if we should be in the tournament. We want to take care of matters that are in front of us.
Tomorrow night, 7:00. It'll be the last home game for the women. It's the ASUN Championship. 11th straight year they're in the game, going for their 8th tournament title. 1 year the game got postponed 2 years ago because of the pandemic. Karl Smesko, the only coach they've ever had, joining us. Coach, good luck. See you tomorrow.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Good luck.
Karl Smesko joining us here on Miller and Moulton. This is a subtle thing. They used to play the ASUN final late in the afternoon on Sunday, and they moved it to Saturday night.
Smart.
And the reason that I think it's smart is because I think 6 years ago, FGCU should have made the tournament. But I think they had their bracket already filled,
right,
and they just put FGCU winner. Exactly.
Winner. Right.
Now, I think they had it where, well, if this team upsets FGCU, that we'll see them here. But they didn't seriously I don't think they seriously looked at FGCU's resume.
Right.
So when they lost, they just said, oh, they're out.
Now at least they're giving them a chance to do that.
It'll ferment.
Right.
If they were to lose tomorrow night, it would ferment overnight. They would sit down Sunday morning and they would actually go, okay, let's talk about their case.
Right.
Let's look at their resume.
You're giving him the best chance.
Exactly.
To get in. I think was that a Kavanaugh move? Was that an ASUN
No,
move?
that was actually NCAA selection decided because the women, they wanted to have both the men and women back to back.
Right.
Where they used to announce the women on Monday.
Right.
Now they're going to do men is 6 to 8, women is 8 to 9 or 8 to 10.
Okay.
So it is truly selection Sunday for all of Division I basketball.
Okay.
And I think it will help not just an FGCU if they were to lose, but I actually think it helps all smaller bubble teams. I actually think it gives the committee more time to say, okay, can we just look at them? Let's give them a fair shake here.
When we come back, I want to talk about Duke's game against UNC. Did
All
you
right.
watch that one?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
All right.
ACC tournament continues along with all the power conference tournaments. We will have not the good, the bad, and the ugly, but we will have Today Was the Day When coming up as we wrap up this Friday edition of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
For the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Being affiliates who they need us to fill 6 to 10.
Right.
If you were coming in at 9 o'clock every morning, where would we go?
Oh no,
Where would you go?
Right.
So that's another reason. Like if we left here and did the show somewhere else, then that's one of the two big roadblocks, the other being the contract, to having you do 9 to 10, because at least there'd be a place for you to come in and do the show
I
from.
never thought I was.
Right.
It just didn't make sense. What to do? Just to have it in one market.
Right.
For one
Now,
person?
maybe they'd want you to, and say you could do the show from home and you wouldn't have to come in, so it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
But I know when it was being discussed, it was an issue. It was kind of like, well, we're still going to have to do 9 to 10. Where do we go?
I was never going to want to come in for
Okay.
an hour.
I don't know how well they're doing sales wise. I mean, I don't. I know I hear a lot of commercials, but like these guys, usually they're on the road, is what I'm told, the first 2 days of the tournament. They do like a 10 to noon show from somewhere. I'm told they're in studio, that they didn't sell it. So, they're not on 99.3 anymore.
I'm telling you, 104.3. Is that what is it on 104.3? Can barely hear it. What are you on?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I know we're on 770. I guess we're on
I guess
98.1, 104.3. I think 104.3 is
it was brutal.
It's a North Fort Myers, Cape Coral.
So 98.1 is what I should put on in the car?
Yeah, it's one of these two. It's either 101.5 or it's 98.1. I think try 98.1.
All right.
Thanks, Logic Man.
I will say, David, you know how forever and ever it was 99.3, now it's 98.1? I was here as an intern when they made the switch, and it was a nightmare. It was horrible. I remember the whole week, it was just...
Well, I'm sure they were miserable.
Yeah. But why does that stuff happen?
Well, it happened because the station was doing horribly, and they felt they couldn't sell it anymore, and so they would change the formats, put a format on they think they could sell on a better signal.
Gotcha.
So,
whatever happened to your Fox stuff? Are they still doing sports?
yeah, but they got rid of one of their two signals, but they got rid of the weaker one. They got rid of the downtown Fort Myers, North Fort Myers, Cape Coral
So
signal.
who took that time slot?
They just flipped the switch and they run national.
Oh, okay.
They run Fox Sports 24/7. So they run the Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington show, I believe.
Honestly, that's the easiest thing to do. It's not the best radio, but it's the easiest thing to do.
Sure. It's free.
Yeah.
Flip a switch. It's free.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, ugly bag of water. But the thing is that all the promotional stuff and all the
you have to
shirts,
change every liner.
Yep.
Everything on the station
single
says
one.
99.3, and you have to change it all.
At Hammond Stadium, the fence. Yep.
Funny thing is, they haven't changed it on the sign right out in front of the street that you turn on to go to the station.
No, they have not.
No. Yeah, they moved it to 99.3 when because of the success of our show back in the day. They did it right after Dunk City's run. It was done in the summer of 2013.
Wow.
It's because we were on 770 AM.
Yeah, 770. Yeah.
And they moved us to 99.3.
Wasn't I 770 when I did my Sunday show?
Yeah, you were.
770.
I used to listen to you coming home from the airport. You were on 770.
Now, it's hard to get a slot anywhere, even on Sirius.
Oh, hey. You and I should know.
Love the Cubs. Little Cubbies.
This is old school.
Yeah, that's nice. I love it.
Cubs kind of suck this year.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Hold
on.
I'm
Hold
sure.
on, though. They've got a little bit of money to spend if they want to.
Well, but aren't they rebuilding?
Well, that's just it. I don't know. I think the Cubs they've got room. They could spend money if they want to.
It's a tough division, though.
I
Milwaukee's
wouldn't
better.
if I were them.
Cardinals are better.
All right. We're coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
17 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, wrapping things up on this Friday with Dr. Roto, the last doctor to make house calls. drroto.com is where you go, not just for all your information. Great special. Lay it on them.
Oh, yeah, we're doing NFL seasonal only and MLB seasonal only bundled together, $50 for the entire season. You can't beat it. I'm telling you, you can't beat it.
Well, that's true. You
cannot
can't
beat
beat that price.
No.
And
For
I
the
will
full
say,
year.
you put together a very talented staff. And I mean that sincerely. And you know I don't do fantasy in a big way. All right. But the staff and the info that you guys pump out is tremendous. And quite frankly, this is what I do follow. I follow whether or not the information is winning information. All right. And the information that you give out, people make money on damn near every weekend.
I'm telling you, our college basketball guy is the best in the industry. We've got an esports guy who's amazing, a hockey guy who's amazing. And you know what's even better? They're great people. You know how many crappy people we've worked with in industries?
Who you calling crappy?
People. These guys are like really great individuals. So you're putting it in the right place.
You wanted to quickly talk about last weekend's Duke Carolina game?
There were a lot of people.
Get it off your chest.
There were a lot of people who were happy that Coach K lost his last game.
Yes.
They were like literally thrilled.
Yeah. A lot of people don't, Duke's
they piss
Duke's
people
like
off.
LeBron. You got some people white hat, some people black hat. Yeah. They're tired of Duke.
How do you, maybe you are, and I get that. Maybe you look at Christian Laettner's face and you want to punch it in. I get that. But how do you not root for a guy who's done 42 years, great family guy, great coach, great mentor, and you want to see him lose his last game? I mean, you must really hate Duke.
Listen, do you think people grew tired of the Patriots over the years?
I know, but if it was Belichick's last game, I'd want him to win it and then leave.
Well, it was only his last game at I mean, I have to admit, I understand it was a big deal. I mean, some people tried to equate it to Jeter's last home game at Yankee Stadium and all that.
Wasn't that a great thing when he gets it?
It was. And it was a great event.
Yeah.
All right. It was a big deal. And he's going to be the last great iconic coach. I really believe that. I don't think there will be a coach that will come down the road in the next 30 years. Boeheim is not it. Izzo is not it. Calipari is not going to be it. Bill Self, who, believe it or not, I think is completely overlooked.
Right.
Okay. But is not Coach K.
Because Coach K is an Olympic coach. Coach K.
Right.
Kobe Bryant, when he said, "Who do you want to coach the Lakers?" he said, "Coach K."
Right.
And Kobe didn't want anybody coaching him.
So there you go. Wow. All right. Feel better?
Yeah, I do.
Duke, by the way, playing Miami, 7:00 tonight in the semis of the ACC. And you got Carolina and Virginia Tech, right, on the other side.
Virginia Tech is getting that run, but Carolina. Did I ever tell you I met Hubert Davis? Nicest guy. And a good coach.
Well, and let me tell you, they're playing their best ball of the year right now. So if the Hokies win to probably get in the tournament, they will have earned it. All right. Time now for...
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul, to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
How far back we going, David?
All right, Doc and Felipe. We are going all the way back to 1912. Today was the day in 1912 that, for whatever reason, hockey started being played in 3 20-minute periods. Up until today, they had played 2 30-minute halves. And then a Stanley Cup Challenge game was played on this date in 1912, 110 years ago, with 3 20-minute periods, and they've never looked back. 1918, first ever documented case of the Spanish flu. It started a worldwide pandemic. Over 50 million people died. Worldwide pandemic, huh? 1956, it was the LPGA Championship. It was at Augusta Country Club, not Augusta National. There's a country club right next door. Louis Suggs edged Patty Berg of Southwest Florida fame by 1. 1958, the American League required their batters to wear batting helmets. So it wasn't until 58 that one of the two leagues did that. 1971, Jim Morrison left the United States for Paris, mostly to avoid going to jail. In Miami, he would never return to the States. 1985, Gorbachev replaces Chernenko as the Soviet leader, for those of you in which the 80s were your decade of remembrance. In 86, Mike Bossy scored his 50th goal on this day for the 9th straight year. He was the first player in the history of the league to score 50 goals 9 straight years. I think he was out of the league a
was
year
so
later.
good.
He was amazing.
He was so good.
Hated him because he played for the Islanders, but he was
So good.
unreal. Also in 1986, on this day, the NFL adopted instant replay for the first time. Most people forget they adopted it, used it for like 5-7 years, hated it, got rid of it, had a series of controversial games in the late 90s, which led to instant replay coming back. On this day in 1995, Sir Paul McCartney became Sir Paul McCartney when he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. The Gators won the SEC basketball championship on this day 15 years ago, beating Arkansas by 21. Florida State won the ACC championship, beating Carolina by 3 10 years ago today.
Was that Teddy Dupay and Joakim Noah?
Well, no, Dupay was the 2000 team.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that was the guys who went back to back. That was Horford, Noah.
Okay.
Right.
That was a good team. Vernon Maxwell.
Yeah.
That was a good team.
4 years ago today, the Black Panther became the 5th Marvel movie to earn $1 billion worldwide. NBA on this day suspended the 2020 season until further notice because Rudy Gobert tested positive.
One of the worst days ever for a young Felipe NBA
And
fan.
Western civilization basically followed the NBA.
Yep.
It was 2 years ago today.
Do you remember when Rudy Gobert did that crazy thing with the microphone? And
Right.
I mean, and all of a sudden now,
Yeah, a few days later, it was like, oh, snap.
dude,
Yeah.
not cool.
Also 2 years ago today, Harvey Weinstein sentenced to 23 years in jail. Lawrence Welk, Antonin Scalia, and Ralph Abernathy, all born on this day. Lawrence Welk would have been 119. Ralph Abernathy would have been 96, and Antonin Scalia would have been 86.
I have a Scalia story if you want to hear it.
Don't know if we have time.
Okay, but if you do,
Maybe for the Twitch chat room.
let me know.
Doc Ellis would have been 77 today. Bobby Abreu is 48. Becky Hammond's 45. Elton Brand is 43. Dan Ugla, Felipe, I threw that in for you.
Yeah.
Marlins fame, and David Sampson, who was on the show earlier. Dan Ugla's 42. AD Anthony Davis is 29.
Really?
Yeah, 29.
Lebral.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wonder how many more years he's going to stay healthy.
About another week.
Yeah. Terrence Howard from Empire fame is 53. Lisa Loeb of music fame is 54. And Don't Worry, Be Happy, Bobby McFerrin is 72.
Good song. Yeah.
It's snappy. It's
Don't
peppy.
worry.
Right. And that is today was the day.
You know what they call Anthony Davis? A day today.
Oh, I like that. Clever.
Look at you.
Look at Felipe.
Or A Disney.
Hey, Disney. That's what my son calls him. Hey,
Yeah,
Disney.
A Disney. Yeah.
All right. We got a couple minutes. Scalia.
So real quick, I was a student body president at college, and I carried this scepter. There was this mace, and you had to hold it with white gloves because you couldn't let your oils get on the mace.
Sure.
And I was walking it down during commencement. So who was walking in the procession right behind me? Antonin Scalia.
Ooh, commencement speaker.
No, he was up there getting some sort of honorary
a
degree. or something
doctorate,
like
got it.
doctorate. So he goes to touch the mace.
Oh.
I pull the mace back because I can't let him touch it because my one instruction is nobody touches the mace
Right.
without these gloves.
Right.
The president of the school is looking at me like he wants to kill me because he's like, if the Supreme Court justice wants to touch this stupid mace, you let him.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, Justice Scalia, I can't let you touch it.
Did you ultimately let him touch it or no?
No way.
Did you explain at least? Did you say,
I tried. I said,
Mr. Justice, I literally have been instructed
I
no
did,
one
I
is
did,
allowed to
I
touch
did.
it.
But no, at that
without
point,
wearing
the
the
president
gloves.
was like, you know,
Right.
when somebody's eyeballs are like ripping your heart out.
Right.
That was it.
Basically, he's looking at you going, I don't know what your transcripts say, but you're not graduating.
Exactly. Graduation, no guarantees.
All right. College hoops games that interest you the most. I'm, granted, little bias here from Jersey. I think Rutgers is in, but I know they're in if they beat Iowa in the Big Ten quarterfinals today.
They're not beating Iowa. I like Iowa. The Murray brothers are good.
Iowa doesn't always show up in
They never
the big
do.
games.
They never show up in the big games, but the Murray brothers are good.
Okay. All right. Texas A&M is a 9.5-point dog against Auburn. To give you any idea, at least what the bettors think, and if the Aggies can pull the upset, why many think they will play their way into the tournament.
Gig 'em, but they ain't winning.
IU, a 5.5-point dog. That one tips off, by the way, 11:30 in the morning. The Big Ten tournament gets underway today. Indiana, after coming from 13 down at the half to beat Michigan, 5.5-point dog against the Fighting Illini.
It's possible.
Winning, you're in.
Yeah, it's
I
possible.
mean, that's certainly what
Yeah,
they're
it's winnable,
thinking. I don't
winnable.
know if it's true, by the way. If Indiana wins, they only get to 20. But, with
But you
your
need a win
resume,
like this. You need a win.
yes. Yes. I mean, Illinois co-Big Ten champ, that'd be a really good win. So just kind of looking at the bubble teams here and some of the games that are big. I will say this, pay attention to the SEC tournament because Mississippi State surprised and Vandy surprised.
Yeah, Vandy beat Alabama.
I know they got Kentucky today, though. It really should end today. There was really no upsets there was one upset in the Big East and no upsets in the Pac-12.
That SEC tournament's in Tampa, right?
It is. It is. Oklahoma, by the way, Texas Tech, 7.5-point dog. OU beat Baylor last night. You beat Baylor and Texas Tech back-to-back, and you're a bubble team?
But they play slow. That game could be like 51-48.
It could. Texas Tech, best defensive team in the country.
Yeah.
I think they've replaced Virginia as the best defensive team in the country. I've got a rooting interest. USC and UCLA will play again.
You rooting
Third
for
meeting of
Andy
the year.
Enfield or against Andy Enfield?
I always root for Andy.
Oh, there you go.
So there you have it. Big day in college hoops. Yesterday was a great day for the bubble teams. Can they continue one more day?
Yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Miller and Moulton. Dr. Roto, thanks so much for pinch hitting. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. We'd love to do it again anytime soon.
drroto.com, drroto.com. The special again?
$50, all the seasonal fantasy football and fantasy baseball this year.
That's damn ridiculous. Have a great weekend, and thanks for listening. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Have a good weekend. Adios.